Chapter 26. The people in the Senate did not take this remark. Yisui continued, since I woke up, I have had high expectations for the great Daxia Alliance that we once risked our lives to protect. Actually, I am quite disappointed. In your eyes, I am a latecomer. But in my eyes, you are the latecomers. Machi continued, Mr. Yisui, why do you have to do this? We have just taken a general look at your information. We admire your contribution to defending the great Daxia Alliance when it was first established. We are all human beings. We left our home planet and conquered the universe. We have only just managed to gain a foothold. There are definitely many enemies in the universe. Sometimes people are exhausted and things in the world are unpredictable. Yisui interrupted, so what happened to me was just an accident. The three Makis were silent and looked at each other, while the other two nodded. Then Machi said, it can only be an accident. We hope Mr. Yisui can stick to this tone. Why? Yisui asked in surprise. For safety. March replied. Yisui thought for a while before asking, is stealing the remains of the original human beings a serious crime in the Alliance? So if a ship has been sleeping in the heart of the Alliance for thousands of years, and the Alliance does nothing about it, but is stolen by a group of pirates first, then what does this mean to the Alliance? Yisui is a rookie and shouldn't have attacked directly in the face. As the saying goes, no trouble, no action. Only after trouble can there be results. Since I'm new here, I have to let people know that I'm not someone who can be bullied. About 12 hours ago, I woke up on Sandstorm Planet 1633. What I saw when I woke up was not my beloved compatriots, but a group of alien thieves who came from nowhere. Former Chief Yuan Piazi drew aside the curtains and broadcast Yisui's live broadcast on the display screen in his private residence. The derivative servant respectfully brought the consciousness transfer simulator. It can temporarily transmit human consciousness to the network, forming its own analog signal. The use is naturally remote conferencing. Yuan Piazi was hesitating whether to meet Yisui. After all, he chose to help the A girl. This is essentially a betrayal of humanity. Of course, if the A girl's judgment at that time was correct, they would be heroes in protecting humanity. Yisui continued to question, I was robbed by aliens in the AMU star system in the heart of Daxia and was hunted down. Where is the Daxia Alliance? Yisui asked again, after I revealed my identity in Z Mountain, only one official representative of the Alliance contacted me. His name is Asenmo, and he is just a 9th rank inspector of the Imperial Censorate. So, I know that they have already reported this matter to the Senate through various means. You know what? I want to know if this is a dereliction of duty or a planned betrayal of humanity. The enemy is in the Senate. Everyone's face turned pale. I was on planet AMU, being hunted down by the 3rd Patrol Fleet of the Great Daxia Alliance. Just now, I almost died on planet AMU. Yisui rebuked, do you know? The Great Daxia Alliance is there. Can the Great Daxia Alliance still fulfill its duty to protect humanity? This is very disappointing. It has been nearly 1,000 years since the last interstellar expedition and there has been no news of misfortune happening to humans. The death of the rabbit makes the fox mourn, and the loss of the lips makes the teeth cold. People will be very angry. Now you want me to declare this all an accident? Then the wolves outside and the dogs at home. Will they think that the Great Daxia Alliance is no longer able to protect humans? Han Chong looked like a young and tough space warrior. He frowned and said, this is irrelevant. The Alliance will definitely deal with the wolf cubs outside and the traitors at home. But this matter ends here, don't involve anyone else. Dong Sixi interrupted. Are you protecting that chief? Yisui asked with a frown. March motioned for them to calm down and said, we just don't want to escalate the conflict. Yisui said, hasn't he resigned? Yisui still remembered that the A girl told him that the chief had taken the blame for her and had resigned. March sighed and said, that can't be solved by resigning. That's betrayal of the Alliance, and you'll be hanged. Yisui asked doubtfully, do you know what happened? The three of Maki looked at each other again and said, we don't know, and we don't want to know. The truth of this matter needs the next chief to decide whether to start the decryption agenda. Yisui was silent again, that chief was just taking the blame for others. At this time, another signal intervened, it was the former chief Yuan Piazi. He became more and more relaxed as he entered this virtual parliament hall. He looked at Yisui deeply, and said with a hint of sadness in his tone, how should I call you? My name is Yisui. Yisui replied. Yisui had other thoughts about Yuan Piazi's sudden appearance in this unclear sentence. Of course, he knew Yisui's name. He was asking if Yisui was Yisui. And Yisui can't lie in front of him. Mr. Yisui. Yuan Piazi said, can I have a private chat with you? Dong Sixi immediately stood up and rebuked, Yuan Piazi, you are violating the rules. Alas. Dong Sixi, I don't want this to happen either. I have already written a report on everything that happened here. You can wait until the next chief is elected and the decryption is opened before you hold me accountable. Yuan Piazi sighed. Yisui nodded, and in an instant, the space was split apart. Yisui and Yuan Piazi were placed in a separate space, where there were only the two of them. Yuan Piazi said, nothing is absolutely safe or secret. Mr. Yisui hopes you will be careful. Yisui asked, why do you want to take the blame for her? In order to avoid greater unrest. Yuan Piazi explained, many ordinary people don't know her existence, and if they knew, they would be afraid and would hurt her. Then Yuan Piazi added, she is a very good girl, isn't she? Yisui didn't think so. It turned out that you weren't the one who almost died. Yisui shook his head to express his disagreement with Yuan Piazi's comment. Yisui thought for a moment and said, so, the other people in the Senate don't know about her existence either, and they all think it's your responsibility. Yuan Piazi smiled, it's hard to say, some of them may know, but they just don't say it. Then Yuan Piazi changed the subject, this was originally a violation of the rules by your mother Mo Sushui, but over the past 10,000 years, she has already become an important relative of the human race. I believe this is widely recognized by humans. I don't agree. She almost killed me. Yisui has a bad impression of the A Euro girl. Mr. Yisui, please think about whether there is any problem with your identity first. Yuan Piazi calmed Yisui down with just one sentence. I have passed the identity verification, and the Senate has recognized me. Yisui thought about it and answered decisively, and I am a human being. Is this body yours? Yuan Piazi didn't say anything. This question suddenly popped up in Yisui's mind. Yuan Piazi finally smiled and said, forgive others when you can, everyone is a fool. Yuan Piazi smiled helplessly, then sighed and said, I don't have much time left. I only ask Mr. Yisui for one thing. I just hope you don't tell her. Even if I accept the death penalty, I can still let you know. I am willing to calm down the anger. Then the space began to slowly dissipate, and Yuan Piazi's figure faded. But he added one more sentence, please have more trust in yourself and your civilization. The space returns to the space where Maki and the other two are. No one in March was alone to ask what had happened. There was silence for a long time. Yisui felt a little irritated. He had begun to miss the pleasure of using his heart and brain to explore other people's inner thoughts. Maki had been brewing the words in his mouth for 7 or 8 times before he spit them out. I hope we can reach some weak consensus with Mr. Yisui and put an end to this matter and not expand it further. Han Chong took over the conversation and said in a silent but powerful voice, as for the anger in Mr. Yisui's mouth, it cannot be without reason. The Great Xia Alliance will definitely give Mr. Yisui a satisfactory explanation, which is also to express our Great Xia Alliance's commitment to protecting every human being. Determination. Yisui looked doubtful, can you make the decision? Machi, Dong Sixi and Han Chong stood up and bowed to Yisui, we will convince others. Yisui turned his head away, his expression showing distrust, can I trust your explanation? No one knew what they discussed in the end. Yisui exited the space with a puzzled look on his face and returned to the M-Star court. Yisui was vaguely aware of the crowd outside, and felt a sense of pride in his heart. Yisui knew it was time for him to go out and show his true face to the world, otherwise he would become a liar. As Yisui climbed the stairs, he asked, AI, is the broadcast I asked you to prepare ready? The A Euro girl followed at an easy pace, her answer already prepared. Yisui looked back at the A Euro girl. Did she really think of him as her brother? It doesn't matter. Yuan Piazi and the Senate can protect you for a while, but not for your whole life. Once I have established myself, we will settle the score later. The door that opened and closed in a kaleidoscope manner opened by itself, and Yisui walked out. This time there were no handcuffs and no robots pressing down on him. After passing through the long corridor, the heavy door opened. At this moment, the radio broadcasts the entire planet of AMU. A Euro trademark M Yisui, A Euro. Chapter 27. Yisui's voice echoed on M-Star. The Kaka and Uchiko tribes had caused trouble when Yisui was in trouble just now, and were severely suppressed by the Atavis. I am Yisui. When he said Yisui's name, there was a cheer in Amsterdam. Thank you. Loyal people of the Alliance. The words come out before the person appears. Wang Dong was blocked and tried to commit suicide. He collapsed completely after hearing the broadcast. For the loyalty and courage of the Activese people, I will inform the Alliance to commend and honor you. Yisui asked the A Euro girl, what are our casualties this time? The A Euro girl stood beside him in a form that only Yisui could see. With a touch of her finger, more than a dozen pages of floating information appeared. Then he appeared in front of Yisui. While Yisui was being escorted to the execution court, the Activese, some Kaka and Ichiko people tried to rescue Yisui, and exchanged fire with the mechanical guards of the execution court, resulting in more than 1,600 casualties. The AM-Star self-defense fleet attacked steadily from the third patrol to the last minute of madness, almost annihilated. In order to delay the final time, an average of 10 years of the life of the Activese people were extracted. Fortunately, the third patrol commander Zhang Hao was indecisive and lacked courage, so he failed to enter AMU-Star. Then, the Sun Chariot special battleship blocked the attack of the third patrol at the last moment, and the hull was severely damaged, which delayed enough time for the appearance of the Mars. Zhao Zhong, the commander of the special class battleship Yinghuo, died because he insisted on carrying out the high-frequency 6-jump combat mission alone and refused to rest until he died of a broken heart. The specific reason is unknown, here is an AI estimate, it may be because he knew that his family betrayed the Daxia Alliance, and he could not bear the psychological pressure and was afraid of the Daxia Alliance's collective punishment, so he chose to commit suicide in this way. Because the Yinghuo did not bring any frigates with it, it was attacked just after it appeared after the warp, and it had to use itself to block the attack on M-Star by the third cruiser, causing great harm to the personnel on board. Afterwards, the follow-up support arrived and defeated the third patrol, and is now chasing the remaining forces. In addition, some Kaka and Ichiko people who were bewitched and had various psychological reasons caused small-scale riots on M-Star. Yisui nodded, then walked out of the security check passage and could already see the sunlight outside. The light screen barrier had not been removed yet, and everyone had already gathered outside, looking at Yi Sui from afar. Yi Sui walked out of the steps, stood in front of the gate of the law enforcement court, and looked down at the crowd. Open your heart and brain, listen to everything and other superpowers, and feel their intense excitement. Yi Sui continued, I hereby announce that the rebellion of the Third Circuit has been defeated by the Imperial Army, the Yinghuo Army. The crowd below cheered, and the strong emotions made Yi Sui feel relaxed in his heart and mind. To the officers and soldiers of the AMU self-defense fleet who bravely fought against the rebels without fear of losing their lives in order to protect AMU and the Alliance. In my capacity as the chairman of the joint meeting of the Daxia Alliance Congress and the Daxia Alliance Interstellar United Parliament, and as the vice chairman of the Senate, I hereby announce that they will be posthumously awarded the citizenship of the Alliance, and it will last for 3 generations. As the vice president of the Great Xia Empire's Imperial Parliament, I hereby declare that they will be granted imperial citizenship posthumously, and that the citizenship will be hereditary. The crowd below cheered, but there were also some cries among the cheering crowd. In the mind of Yi Sui, this phenomenon is more sensitive. It can be seen in a kind of passion, joy, and high emotions, mixed with thoughts, pain, and sadness, a kind of contrary emotion. How can it not be affected by the mind? Gaze. Yi Sui sighed and said, May AMU comfort their souls. They shed their blood for me. I am very moved and thank them. Today I promise to all the officers and soldiers of the AMU Star Self-Defense Fleet who participated in the war and their families, and I promise to all the people of the 3 tribes who tried to rescue me, I will never forget this kindness. The crowd below was so surprised that they forgot to cheer, and Bai Lingyan also squeezed through the crowd to the front. We must repay a favor. Yi Sui shouted excitedly. The crowd was shocked and cheered. They also realized what it meant to be a good follower of a dragon. What is the glory of loyalty? Yi Sui waved his hand to signal them to be quiet, this is my personal promise. Then the crowd was given enough time to cheer, and Yi Sui felt that his mentality had changed slightly. It has been less than 12 hours since Yi Sui traveled through time, but each day feels like a year and he has become much more mentally degraded. After this, I felt a little more relaxed. The square speaker-shaped broadcasting logo appeared on Yi Sui's lips again. I once promised the Kaka and Ichiku tribes to give you a new home. I am a democratic person. I will now give you 2 choices. One is to rebuild Z Mountain, and the other is to give you a new home from another star system. You have designated a homeland, but it will not be on AMU Star. This is your own choice. I will repay a favor, but I will never run away from a grudge. Yi Sui's tone changed. Yi Sui signaled the A Euro girl to hand over the information about the traitor and the enemy's spy. Using the same method, Yi Sui fiddled with the documents and said, according to the laws of the Great Xia Alliance, stealing the remains of the original human race is a serious crime of the Alliance and can be punished by death. Murdering humans is considered betrayal of the Alliance and should also be punished by death according to the laws of the Alliance. I will never hesitate to take revenge on the betrayers. Now I order all government officials, military, and civilians on AMU Star to participate in the arrest of the criminals on the list. Yi Sui issued an arrest order and ordered the A Euro girl to a list of names will be sent to the people who committed the rebellion. Then let the A Euro girl contact Xiwixing. Xiwixing Central Executive Yuan is where administrative departments in charge of PIPA Euro trademark S livelihood, public security, and economy gather. Responsible for managing the 17 cities of Xiwei Star, including the central city and lower city of the imperial capital. Xiwei Star is the administrative capital of the Alliance, located in the First Frontier universe. Therefore, there is no governor in the Xiwei Star system, and it is directly managed by the Xiwei province of the Daxia Alliance. In the Xiwixing Central Office Building, the Public Security Bureau and the Criminal Police Brigade received an order, the 10 surnames betrayed the Alliance, and they must be arrested and brought to justice. Those who resist must be killed without mercy. Then sign it below, Yi Sui. Xiwixing's administrative director Yang Han and security chief Han Chi were in a meeting together. They received the message at the same time and were surprised. Yang Han was born into a family of 10 surnames, but he could be said to be completely unaware of this incident. No, it cannot be said that he was completely unaware. He guessed that his people might be doing something illegal because some of them were using his influence to transport some contraband through customs. However, in this kind of situation, since I relied on my family's support to sit in the position of executive minister of Xiwei Star, I naturally have to give back to my family. It's just some illegal business. Anyway, I didn't show up myself, so if it's discovered, the unlucky tribesmen will take the blame. Anyway, there are so many people from the side branches of the 10 surnames who are second-class citizens with no future and no respect for others. Han Chi immediately checked the internet to see what level of authority Yi Sui had and whether he could directly order them to arrest the 10 surnames. Then they found that they did not have enough permissions to access. All I got was one sentence, strictly implement its executive orders. Then, Han Chi immediately pulled out his gun and pointed it at Yang Han, saying, Yang Han, you are arrested. Yang Han raised his hands helplessly and said weakly, I want to see Commissioner Yang, I am wronged. Commissioner Yang refers to Yang Yisai, a member of the Senate Xiwixing Senior Officials Organization Committee. They both have the surname Yang, but one was given the surname Yang, and the other was born with the surname Yang. Han Chi snorted coldly and said, I have been very polite to you because I think Commissioner Yang might protect you. Afterwards, this order went viral in the Alliance, and all officials in the executive Yuan system of Xiwei Star received the news in one sentence within 3 minutes, executed to the highest degree. Coordinate with the Imperial Guard stationed on Xiwei Star to intercept all exits of Xiwei Star, and at the same time command the Space Management Department and the Ministry of Transportation to control the traffic in and out of the Xiwei Star system. A large number of military and police departments were dispatched to immediately search and arrest the members of the 10 surnames. The once powerful and aristocratic family of 1,000 years, the 10 families given by God, was destroyed in an instant. They were thrown into prison. Li, Wang, Zhang, Lu, Chen, Yang, Huang, Zhao, Wu, Zhou, thousands of years of accumulation, nearly 10 million people. With a huge root system and tremendous power, and without the emergence of pure-blooded humans, they would be a top-tier wealthy family. But after all, they are not human yet. Yi Sui said this casually and issued an order, not caring at all about the impact this rough order would have on Xiwei Star, the administrative center of the Daxia Alliance. After Yi Sui finished his speech, he also saw Bai Ling Ian, who was blocked outside by a light screen and was also in tears. I can totally understand her feelings. She made the biggest bet of her life and was about to lose, but ended up making a huge profit against the odds. Yi Sui waved her hand and asked the light screen to make a small cut for her. Yi Sui didn't dare to turn off all the light screens, in case there was a sniper more than 10 kilometers away, out of his mind and brain range. A gentleman does not stand under a dangerous wall. Bai Ling Ian came in excitedly and jogged along the stairs. She might want to take advantage of this excitement to throw herself directly into Yi Sui's arms. In full view of the public, solidify the relationship and maximize the benefits. But if you do this, what if Yi Sui is unhappy? If you do this, just in case. Bai Ling Ian finally stopped, and stood timidly by the side, with her head lowered, tears hanging in the corners of her eyes, and her cheeks slightly red. Yi Sui felt as if there were thick barriers between them. Yi Sui asked, Bai Ling Ian, what was your former name? Bai Ling Ian was startled and looked up. The expression on her cute little face seemed to be asking, what kind of opening is this? Bai Ling Ian instantly had countless speculations in her mind, such as Yi Sui was a bloodlineist, a fundamentalist, and wanted Bai Ling Ian to restore her old name. So Beiju, Bai Ling Ian answered sullenly. Maybe she didn't like this name, or there might be other factors. Yi Sui smiled slightly, his eyes revealing tenderness. I still think Bai Ling Ian sounds better. How about this? Let them take your last name. Then Yi Sui said to the A girl, send a message to Xiwixing. I will grant the Xiwixing Sui family the surname Bai. Order them to change their surname to Bai immediately. This. Is this considered the opposite of Tian? Gang. Chapter 28. Bai Ling Ian was very excited. She had placed her hopes on Yi Sui. Isn't it that Yi Sui is considered a special citizen? I can bring myself back to the Sui family openly, and then let my father and uncles lick me like they licked that woman. Yi Sui suddenly discovered that Bai Ling Ian's mechanical backpack had been removed. Yi Sui was very confused. Why didn't he notice it just now? Then, Yi Sui turned off his mind and brain. In an instant, the noise that just seemed to echo in my ears was muted again, and all traces of it were muted. The people who should have been happy and lively were now all wearing masks, with hideous expressions on their faces. Even the shy Bai Ling Ian was actually more tired. I rely too much on my heart and brain, so I see a different world. The human heart can be deceiving. Yi Sui immediately arranged for the A girl to use the medical robot to rescue them. The A girl replied, due to the heavy casualties in the interstellar war, the medical care capacity of M is overloaded. Then transfer it from outside. Then Yi Sui gently held Bai Ling Ian in his arms, not trying to understand other people's inner state. Only Yi Sui can hug Bai Ling Ian. Bai Ling Ian leaned shyly in Yi Sui's arms. The A girl arranged a special car for them to leave here and stay temporarily in the Lord's mansion. Bai Ling Ian, who got on the special car with Yi Sui, finally understood her identity. What do you belong to now? No matter what, his Sui family? No, the Bai family has the same surname as mine and my mother. The Purple Star Bai family, Sui family, in terms of family background, power, and heritage, is completely inferior to the 10 surnames. Although the 10 surnames and the Bai family, Sui family, are not considered humans in the eyes of pure-blooded humans. But in the eyes of ordinary people on M-Star and even ordinary people in the Daxia Alliance, they cannot tell the difference between pure-blooded humans, androids, derivatives, and mixed bloods. Humans are afraid of their own exploitation and oppression of other races in the galaxy, which has led to a heavy accumulation of hatred, which may one day become irreversible, so they often blur the definition of one another. In addition, humans often call themselves gods, believing that they bring civilization, technology, and a unified interstellar world. Therefore, one consequence is that when you talk to ordinary people in the marginal interstellar space and say human, they don't understand what human is, but they know that those who look like human are the powerful people whom they cannot afford to offend. As for the highest level among the powerful and wealthy, they are a gods a. So they often can't figure out the difference between Wang Dong and Yi Sui. Just like sheep can't tell the difference between a sheepdog and a shepherd. As a result, in Yi Sui's opinion, the hatred and sins are still borne by human beings. But most of the sins were committed by his subordinates. If I am working for myself, I can't help but get scolded. But what has become of the 10 surnames? They have all started plotting to take down their master. Why should I keep them around? Yi Sui thought about this and realized that someone would take advantage of this opportunity to achieve their own goals in the Senate. Therefore, some factions wanted to protect the derivatives or even the 10 surnames, and then came to find Yi Sui. Yisui thought he could use this as an excuse to warn some people. Yisui doesn't have so many ambitions, he just wants to avoid being bullied and humiliated, and to be able to lie down safely in the ocean of privilege and power. Central Bank Province, Big Dipper Star Region, Xiwei Galaxy, Xiwei Star, Imperial Capital Taiwan Starport. This is the second largest starport in the Alliance. The largest starport is called Tianxiuan, which is also in the Xiwei Star system. The Yang family, one of the 10 surnames, was about to leave the port, but at this time was still at Xiwei Star and had not left the port. It can only be said that the Yang family had long become the scapegoat of the 10 surnames. The Yang family itself was not heavily involved in this matter, and some of the key figures were completely unaware of it. Therefore, the other families deliberately delayed the news, hoping to use the blood of the Yang family to buy them time to escape. The question is, do the 10 surnames have a chance to escape? First of all, the a Euro girl just doesn't a Euro trademark T think Yisui is a human, but that doesn't a Euro trademark T mean the a Euro girl really betrays humanity. But according to the a Euro girl's logic, she helped the aliens and the 10 surnames to deceive their superiors and subordinates, and the fake Yisui entered the human race under the identity of her brother and destroyed humanity. Both are serious threats to humans, but the a Euro girl can use the emotional setting to make her own logical chain conclude that the latter is more harmful and directly endangers humans. Therefore, you can use the obfuscated part of Supreme Protocol, human supremacy, to circumvent the restrictions of other protocols. All it takes is for the a Euro girl to design a good aftermath plan that can take care of the former. Therefore, the escape of the 10 surnames has long been under close scrutiny, and all the chains of evidence have been prepared. The a Euro girl submitted this evidence directly to the Senate in the name of AI. As expected, the core members of the Yang family who fled had been notified immediately and then detained by the law enforcement officers of Starport. Some people in the Yang family began to apologize by dying. When the law enforcement officers, wearing fully armed exoskeleton armor and carrying a large number of armed automatic machines, such as robot soldiers and space-penetrating drones, entered the Yang family spaceship, there were only a dozen direct descendants of the young men and women trembling with fear and looking at the enemy. No tears. Xiwei Galaxy, a transit station of Gushan. The Li family, one of the 10 surnames, is waiting in line at the transit station to go to the 4th border. Then they sneaked across the 4th border to the alien territory to escape. But surprisingly, for some unknown reason, the Gushan No. 1 transfer station had been under maintenance for 3 hours. Then, for 3 hours, the military fleet cut in line. Naturally, the Li family did not dare to provoke the military at this critical juncture, because there were pure-blooded humans standing behind the military. The Wang family ran further and reached the first border checkpoint. The Wang family believed that they had already waited for the formation of the second phase, through various random inspections, tests, failures, and even strikes of various AI programs. Under normal circumstances, the 10 families would have been furious, but now the Wang family just wanted to avoid conflict and quickly ran to the 4th border and smuggled out. Then the first border garrison fleet surrounded them. This fleet was arranged by the a Euro girl to be on duty nearby early on, with the aim of arresting them as soon as possible. Then the rest of the Zhang, Lu, Chen, Huang, Zhao, Wu, and Zhou families were immediately arrested within a short period of time. The smooth execution of the arrest plan was a little unbelievable. Lu Ruo, chairman of the Central Bank Provincial Executive Committee, expressed his disbelief at how smoothly and simply the arrest was carried out. He even felt that someone was deliberately guiding him. Lu Ruo has recently been racking his brains for the public security of Xiwei Star, as a large number of people have to pass through Xiwei Star to gather in the Senate. If there really were some alien spies gathering strength and exploding together with them, it would be a huge loss. Therefore, he had not paid much attention to the affairs of the Senate for a long time. After receiving this order, although it was signed by Yisui, there was no seal of the Senate. Because the province was originally a small clone created by the Senate to facilitate local management and entrust the management of this place. Therefore, the power of the province does not come from the Daxia Alliance like the Galaxy Administrative Governor and Starfield Administrative Governor. Then Lu Ruo immediately informed the Senate and was immediately instructed to cooperate fully. Notify all forces under you to participate in the search and blockade. Then in the Sui family, no, the Bai family in the capital of Xiwixing. The head of the Bai family called back many important family members, and they began to discuss changing their surnames. As marginal high-ranking officials who had been away from the Alliance's power center for too long, they were slow to get information until the Executive Yuan sent officials from the Civil Affairs Bureau to register and change their surnames. They haven't figured out what happened yet. Compared with the 10 surnames, it is more like a political alliance of a group of people with the same surname rather than a family. The Bai family looks more like a family. It was only at this time that I heard from the Zuxing Imperial Guards that a rebellion had occurred on M-Star, which had caused the Imperial Guards and the Yinghuo army to mobilize their entire forces to suppress the rebellion at all costs. Is it related to the little girl we exiled there? A middle-aged man at the bottom, who did look somewhat similar to Bai Lingian, stepped forward and said, after Sui Beizhou was exiled, he took his birth mother's surname and named himself Bai Lingian. The head of the family who took action was his eldest brother, and there were some changes in expression on his face. Finally, he said, it is blessing or misfortune, blessing and misfortune are interdependent. People began to think deeply about this matter, and some began to think of this exiled lady, the illegitimate daughter of the second wife. Chapter 29. I had a dream last night. There was a sky full of flower rain falling on the mountains and rivers. But when I woke up, the spring trees had shed their leaves and flowers. A euro inscription. Everything was fine. Why? Everything is gone. Bai Lingyian's tears flowed like a spring, and her tears looked like thousands of pearls, sprinkling all over the BMW car. Who the hell are you? Do you think you can get close to the Sui family? This man took advantage of the power of the person he controls, and as soon as he saw the gate dog, he beat the poor man away with a stick. Your mother's disease is a genetic defect. It cannot be cured. That man is a quack doctor who kills people. He is a money-making but incompetent person who bullies orphans and widows. Xiwuxing is a fertile land with flourishing science and technology, and it prides itself on being a civilized life. But outside the Sui family's door, it was pouring rain, soaking the world with misery and tragedy. Someone's heart was as hard as a rock, regardless of the flesh and blood connection, and Jing Zhou died suddenly. Bai Lingyan could not remember which day it was, she only remembered that she was still very young, hiding behind a fire-burning locust tree at home, the flowers of which were as red as fire. The woman had a grand wedding, her bright red wedding gown was like a raging fire, and when she smiled at little Bai Lingyan, a raging fire started burning on Bai Lingyan's body. Bai Lingyan was afraid of strangers and quickly hid in the backyard. Along the way, the servants were happy and gathered in the front yard, hoping to get some wedding money. Ayani. A pretty woman in a maid outfit, but with a few more wrinkles due to time. She is my mother, and she is the only one here who calls me Ayani, but my father doesn't even want to call me his daughter, let alone mention my nickname. Maybe eat a euro trademark S because my mother is old, the walking poisonous tongue and disgusting cleaning nanny always says, your father married someone else and doesn't a euro trademark T want you and your mother anymore. Later I believed it, although I was still not very popular and remained unknown. But she stole the limelight. Everyone tried their best to show their favor to her, flattering her and fawning on her. This was something Bai Lingyan had never enjoyed before. Even her grandfather, the only one who still liked her, drank a glass of wine for her, but the doctor said that her grandfather could not drink anymore. Why? Why did my mother have to bring me to visit her, to beg, to be humble? I asked indignantly, are you a bad woman? Are you going to drive me and my mother away? She laughed out loud, and even her grandfather, who was a little embarrassed and shaking his fingers, laughed along with her. Seeing her grandfather laugh, everyone laughed too. Using a very strange clip sound, pretending to be a coquettish voice, I just want to drive you out to beg for food, I am a vicious stepmother. After saying that, she burst into laughter. Such laughter was so harsh, like the laughter of a villain, and she even pinched her face. Bai Lingyan burst into tears and hid in her mother's arms. The next day, my mother forced me to apologize to her. Little Ayani was very unwilling to do so, and her mother even asked her to give herself a new name. Why not Ayani? Isn't Ayani good enough? The days passed like this, and the woman was always looking for trouble with herself. Her unique accent kept lingering in my ears. One day, the woman did not come to bother me. I was suddenly surprised. I saw that everyone was walking in a hurry and there was a hint of sadness in everyone's expression. Bai Lingyan didn't know why, but she missed her grandfather very much, and then she ran to her grandfather's bedroom crying. No one stopped her along the way. Under normal circumstances, a few elders might come out to teach her a lesson and would never let her pass so easily. The woman might have been distracted and didn't notice the little guy, and the little guy didn't notice her either. The little guy hit her leg hard, causing some pain. The woman originally wanted to bend down and rub the little guy's red and swollen nose, but then she seemed to remember something. He forced a smile and said, "What are you doing here? Where is your mother? There are only adults here, this is not a place for a child like you to play." Bai Lingyan glared at the woman in front of her fiercely, without saying a word, and rushed inside. The woman didn't want to let her in, and she blocked the door tightly to stop her. He bent down and wanted to pick up Bai Lingyan, wanting to carry her away from here, away from this place of trouble. Who knew such a small girl could have so much strength? She capsized in the ditch and was knocked down by the tiny thing. The little girl ran in and happened to see her mother being surrounded and beaten by a group of uncles. The little girl once again burst out her extraordinary strength, pushing away several tall and strong men and protecting her mother. Her mother was kneeling on the ground, her hair was a little messy and her clothes were torn. She bravely protected her mother right in front of her grandfather's body. A family infighting mercilessly tortured the mother and daughter in the vortex. In the end, it was naturally Ayana's mother who was driven out of the Sui family. Ayana was a descendant of the Sui family by blood, but she was just an illegitimate daughter. That woman, the woman Bai Lingyan hated the most in her life, Bai Lingyan believed it must be her. It was she who drove away her mother, killed her grandfather, snatched away her father, and destroyed everything. Everything was fine, but why did I lose everything? Grandpa died, mom left, but I became her daughter. You can't leave the Sui family, let alone look for your mother. Once you leave, everything your mother has given will be in vain. It's none of your business. You drove my mother away. Looking at Ayana's eyes filled with tears and hatred, revealing her indomitable spirit and stubbornness, the man in front of her did the thing she regretted most in her life. So what? I am your mother now, you have to listen to me in everything. How about I give you a new name? How about Baisu? So Baisu, it's delicious. The woman smiled happily at the little girl, and the three words sounded awkward, at least in Bai Lingyan's ears. This is the case. We are all poor women. I hope you don't hate me. There's nothing I can do about it. The woman said hypocritically, at least that's what Bai Lingyan saw. At a later dance party, the woman forcefully dragged Bai Lingyan away from the Sui family. After attending that dance party, Bai Lingyan entered the materialistic world for the first time with a visible identity. No longer the second-generation ancestor of the Su family, and the illegitimate daughter of a man-made entertainment singer with the blood of the Phantom Light clan. Bai Lingyan, no, Su Beiju, the little princess of the Su family, saw her mother at the ball. Perhaps her mother just wanted to see her daughter for the last time from afar to see if she was doing well. Still thinner? She didn't meet her, but the child, who was only a little over 5 years old, was surprisingly sensitive in discovering her mother. She rushed towards her mother, pushed everyone away, knocked down the security guard, and even yelled at the woman, "I'm not your daughter, my name is Ayane." The incident caused a lot of uproar, and the Su family, which had already been involved in a scandal over the division of Mr. Su's inheritance, was once again humiliated. Everything is out of control, the Su and Jing families are completely disgraced. My mother actually handed herself over to that woman, and she took me away from the Su family. She said that was her home, and her home was bigger than Su's. She has such a big house, why does she want to take away Ayane and her mother's house? She is a derivative family, Jing family, which is more powerful than Su family. Her name is Jing Jie, and she is also an illegitimate daughter. She is the result of a marriage between two families and is proof of the Su family's decline. The glass of wine that Mr. Su, who had earned a reputation as a family, toasted to her was first to the Jing family, second to Jing Jie, and thirdly, he might have hoped that she could give Ayane a good result. But the decline of the Su family was as Mr. Su completely left the circle and was pushed to the margins. Therefore, internal conflicts and conflicts of interest continue to arise. Bai Lingyan was kicked out of the Su family as she wished, but as for what happened to that woman, it is unknown. Bai Lingyan was very young at that time, she only knew that her mother loved her. Then the story returns to the scene at the beginning. The artificial human like Bai Lingyan's mother has defects in her manufacturing, not to mention that she chose to give birth. Then comes the opening scene. His mother also died, and he was exiled from Zaiwei Star. She carried a backpack for Ayane, hoping that the child could find a place to rest while wandering in the stars. At night, she often dreams of the past. Bai Lingyan curls up, crying, and calls out in her dreams, "Mom! Mom!" Chapter 30. Tick. Tick tick. In a closed and dark prison, a leak was dripping. In the empty prison, the sound of dripping water became more and more obvious. At this moment, a sound similar to hell broke the silence. Yod Nell. The sound reverberated in the secret room, like a stone dropped into water, creating ripples. From all directions came countless Yod Nell. A hairy man was tied on a torture bed tilted at 45 degrees. His whole body was limp with his limbs hanging down. His face was covered with a special material to block his vision, but his ears and heart were injected with drugs. The ears sharpened his hearing, the heart quickened his blood circulation, and stimulated his nerves. The Alliance has treated you well. Why did you betray the Alliance? This sentence echoed in the space again, breaking the atmosphere and magnetic field environment created by the secret room. The lights were turned on and Yod Nell's mask was taken off, although he was still unconscious. There were several men in suits standing opposite. However, Yod Nell looked at his fallen finger. On the left-hand side, there was a leak, leaving water stains all over the floor. On the right-hand side, a T-shaped wound was made on the right index finger. The blood remained in another bucket, and the sound of bleeding was masked by the sound of dripping water. At this point, the effect of the medicine in the body wears off, and a feeling of weakness immediately comes over me. At this time, the other drug injected took effect, and then he felt that the cells in his body were frantically devouring each other in order to compete for nutrients. But the tube behind his brain injected a mental clarity agent, allowing him to feel the pain and make his brain cells active to think. Yude, your family has been granted numerous honors. Up to 15 generations in a row, you have been granted special citizenship. Yod Nell forced his eyelids open, looked at them, and stammered. The display screen next to it automatically read his brain waves. You dug out my brain a long time ago, why are you still torturing me? Among the men in suits, Mo Chinchai, Deputy Director of the Alliance Investigation Bureau who is in charge of this matter, is young and handsome. He is a pure-blooded human and also a member of the Senate's Serious Crime Investigation Committee. Mo Chinchai got a chair from somewhere and said, "We don't want to torture you, but you are not honest." Yodner hesitated, and the computer automatically translated, "What else can I be dishonest about?" Mo Chinchai asked again, "How did you get the information?" "I discovered it by accident when I was sorting out the archives. Then I used my position to look up the information and concluded that there might be remains of the original human race there." "You have asked this many times." Mo Chinchai listened to the reason again, his brows furrowed tighter and tighter, he clearly felt that there was something fishy. For example, why would such clues be found in the ancient paper books discarded by AI? Mo Chinchai had no choice but to give up, shook his head, and walked out. Someone had already said that they would give him a quick death. After Mo Chinchai left, another man in a suit and tie came in. He was a middle-aged man with loose, pale skin on his face and a lot of body hair. He is a member of the House Committee, his name is Nezaborg. He asked, "Some people still can't accept why you betrayed the Alliance. The Alliance has never treated any alien race the way it has treated your family." Nezaborg continued to ask, "Your ancestor was the first person to reach the Black Cloud Fortress in the 12th Interstellar Crusade. He was the first hero to defeat the Void Clan and was the only alien race to be engraved on the epic monument of the Senate. A 15 generations of grace, born as a special class citizen, for more than 1,000 years. Those so-called 10 surnames bestowed by God wouldn't dare to dream of that. What an honor, what a gift. Which alien race can give you these? What's more, you have been raised in the Senate since you were a child, and grew up with the little prince. Once you reach adulthood, you will be able to serve as a third-class clerk in the Senate. Neoborg was transferred from the education system to the Internal Affairs Committee, and he personally educated Yodne. Of course, within the Alliance, racial discrimination is more taboo than the abyss of the stars. However, Elder Yu still gave enough care to children of other races like Yodane. At least during childhood and education, their food, clothing, and other necessities are the same as those of human children. Many humans who have come into contact with Yodnel believe that they have never treated him unfairly or bullied him. So many people still cannot understand why you, Yodnel, betrayed humanity. Even if we read Yodneir's brain and analyze his consciousness, there are many answers hidden in his heart. His dissatisfaction with the natural status gap, his doting fueled his ambition, he was dismissive of humans since he was young, lacked respect and filters for humans, etc. And the love for Ariel, the barrier between them. These reasons, in their view, are a huge slap in the face to the conciliatory factions of humanity. Yodnel raised his head and kept looking at the specially treated liquid crystal glass in front of him. Behind the LCD glass, there was a beautiful girl in a gothic black floor-length dress. She had beautiful and vibrant long pink curly hair. Her eyes were also focused on him. At this time, Emo Chenjai entered through the secret door. Ariel lifted her skirt, bowed, and said in a bell-like voice, "Uncle Emo, is there really no other way?" Emo Chenjai turned back to look at Yodnel and said, "Ariel, you have to forgive your uncle. There is no other way. He deserves to be executed for his crimes. But for the promise we made to his ancestors, this is the lightest punishment." Punishment. Ariel seemed not to hear what Emo Chenjai said, and his slender hands were resting on the glass. No one knows what she is thinking. The execution robot at the side assisted in removing the tubes and shackles from Yodne. "Is there anything else you want to say?" Neoborg gave him a chance to leave a last word. Yodnel was able to make a sound, "Whatever our merits, whatever our glory. But we are just aliens. You see, all this is your gift. Humanity will one day have to pay the price for its arrogance." Ha ha ha. Thousands of years ago, in the year 11,000 of the human calendar, the Great Xia Alliance and the Su Xian clan had a decisive battle at the Black Cloud Fortress. Yudnel's ancestor Aolian was a member of the Imperial Guard's Tianzhu army. The main forces of mankind are out in battle, and the fate of the race is at stake, and the survival of millions of star fields and trillions of galaxies in the Fourth Frontier universe is at stake. Aolian was the first to reach the Black Cloud Fortress, and the human race turned defeat into victory, defeating the Suxuan clan. On the other side, Ariel's face was gloomy and she seemed to be in a very complicated mood. The lively and endearing color in her eyes disappeared. Instead, there were a pair of sad, heartbroken, and pitiful eyes. Anyone who sees this look will sincerely feel her kindness, compassion, and innocence. People are saying that it's not Ariel's fault, it's those ungrateful people who let Ariel down. Uncle Emo Chenjai, thank you for your hard work. Can you please give it some respect? After all. Then Ariel covered her eyes and sobbed. Emo Chenjai raised his hand, not knowing how to comfort her, and could only sigh helplessly. Said, "Ariel, I'm afraid I can't attend your birthday party." This is a little reminder from Emo Chenjai. Everyone in the human race knows that the Huero faction hopes to use the opportunity of Ariel's coming of age and entry into the Senate to change the current policy of the Great Xia Alliance. Unfortunately, because of the Yisui M-Star incident, the impact caused affected every place in the alliance within 3 days. Ariel nodded and said in a gentle voice, "Thank you, Uncle Emo. It's okay, I respect the decision of the Senate." Emo Chenjai took out a jade hairpin from his space ring and said, "This is my birthday present to you." Chapter 31. At cosmic dusk, a red supergiant star exploded, and the huge energy engulfed the entire galaxy. From the center of the explosion, a specially made mecha, Overlord Xiang Yu, collided with the gravitational zone of the explosion. Overlord Xiang Yu holds a huge long-handled broad-bladed spear, which is equipped with an ion shield and beam particle launcher. This turns it into an offensive and defensive weapon, but this weapon looks stupid and wastes a lot of tactical space. However, this weapon has AI that can automatically fight when necessary, and there are also many conventional weapons. The biggest difference between custom-made mechas and mass-produced mechas is not only the scarcity and high cost of equipment and materials, but also the specialization of their uses. For example, the Overlord Xiang Yu is extremely good at space jumping and is specially designed to restrain the Suxuan clan. The Overlord Xiang Yu was carrying hundreds of mechas, and behind it was a large level 1 loading ship. The loading ship provides energy, ammunition replenishment, and maintenance to the mecha, and its own combat capability is relatively weak. The Overlord Xiang Yu led hundreds of mechas to attack the Suxuan clan's Falling Sun Fortress with the help of the explosion of a super red giant star. The Falling Sun Fortress got its name from the fact that the Sun Chariot special class battleship was severely damaged in the fortress and had to retire. The Suxuan soldiers guarding the Falling Sun Fortress just discovered it through an interstellar detector. The Overlord Xiang Yu made a direct space jump, breaking through the space boundary of the Suxuan clan, jumping into the meteorite fortress and wreaking havoc. The Suxuan soldiers immediately counterattacked, trying to tear apart the space of Overlord Xiang Yu, but the space resistance of Overlord Xiang Yu was too high. The spatial decomposition that had always worked against the Daxia Alliance's mechas suddenly lost its effect. At the same time, a large number of conventional means were also used to bombard the Overlord Xiang Yu, but they had little effect on the Overlord Xiang Yu, which was already characterized by its thick skin and flesh. The Overlord Xiang Yu held the Overlord Spear, and the spear blade secreted a special substance that decomposed the hidden space of the racial innate talents of the Sichuan soldiers. The tip of the gun pierced into the hidden space like piercing tofu, penetrating the helpless Sichuan soldiers. The tip of the gun also had the function of absorbing the spatial energy of the Sichuan clan. The absorbed space energy can be directly used by the Overlord Xiang Yu to travel through space and cast space barriers through the spear as a filter. Therefore, the result was that the Sichuan clan soldiers, who were known as the clan's space mages and the best single soldiers in the universe, were shot one by the Overlord Xiang Yu like killing chickens and dogs. At this moment, hundreds of mechas outside have also begun to attack, and the Falling Sun Fortress standing in the starry sky is in danger. The Falling Sun Fortress, similar to the border fortress built by aliens to defend against humans, uses an extremely strong material from the universe that is not affected by space warping and will not disappear due to radiation. The protons that make up it have a very high stable density and will never fall. Currently, humans are often helpless against fortresses and strongholds built by super large races. Therefore, extremely brutal hand-to-hand combat often breaks out in some key fortresses, which often require extremely bloody and cruel use of human lives. Of course, humans are already rare, so it is impossible to let humans brave the arrows and stones themselves, so there are mainly some artificial humans and derivative humans. After Aoli and Nell first reached the Black Cloud Fortress, people began to look for aliens with special racial talents. The mechas took their positions, established contact, and the space vibration devices were fully deployed, with hundreds of mechas as the pillars to build a formation. Directly breaking through the spatial defense of the Falling Sun Fortress, the mecha army rushed into the fortress and carried out a massacre. The Overlord Xiang Yu stood on the top of the Black Cloud Fortress, with a sea of a blood and corpses below him, and a ruined fortress in the starry sky. Overlord Xiang Yu raised his spear and shouted through the loudspeaker, "First to ascend. Ares." Everyone shouted loudly, "Ares, the first one to climb." Or shout, "God of War. Ares." The loudspeaker is naturally not just a simple sound, but a variety of means of broadcasting a large number of ethnic languages, including but not limited to vacuum sound waves, electromagnetic waves, inspiration waves, plasma light waves, etc. In the universe, someone shouted loudly, "The first to reach the Falling Sun Fortress, God of War. Ares." Ares, a pure-blooded human, is Ariel's biological brother from the same mother. They have a very good relationship and are 13 years apart in age. 13 years ago, Ares came of age and resolutely joined the army, serving at the Nantian Gate, fighting on the front line. For 13 years, he dominated the fourth frontier with the name of God of War Ares. The rising military leader of the Great Xia Alliance is recognized as the military leader of the Great Xia Alliance 1,000 years later. The fall of the Falling Sun Fortress means that humans have torn up the armistice agreement and launched an attack on the last permanent fortress of the Sichuan clan, the Dongxian Fortress. According to the 10,000 Races Alliance Treaty, all races should support the Sichuan race and fight against the Daxia Alliance together. But before all races could speak out to condemn the Great Xia Alliance, the Great Xia Alliance made a cosmic announcement to the universe. The Great Xia Empire launched a revenge war against 3 super large races, led by the Sichuan clan, the Demon clan and the Zerg clan, 24 large races and countless small and medium-sized races. Among them, a war of genocide was launched against the Sichuan clan, a super large clan, and 6 large clans. In name, Yi Sui, the vice-chairman of the Great Xia Empire, will serve as the Grand Marshal of the Empire's war commander. In fact, the commander-in-chief is Admiral Cecil of the Human United Front Headquarters, Nantianmen Space Mobile Permanent Fortress. This resolution was passed on the second standard day of the incident, at a special emergency and unlimited expanded meeting of the Senate Military Committee. The so-called special emergency expanded meeting is held by the Military Commission applying to the chief to convene a special emergency meeting, which is then signed and announced by the deputy chief and convened in the near future. Deputy Chief Yi Sui has not yet taken up his post, so the signature was signed by the former deputy chief and acting chief Gong Kai. Due to the serious nature and scope of the matter, the tight time and the pressure of counting the number of participants. Even with such advanced technology, various problems still give the comrades in the conference organizing and logistics committee a headache. So unlimited expansion means that as long as you are human, over 18 years old, and have passed the Senate's thinking and cognitive review within a standard year, you can participate without registering or making an appointment in advance. Meeting. But there is no right to propose, only the right to speak and vote. So on March 17, 12,024, in the Daxia calendar, in the Pantheon, the Senate, and the special meeting hall of Tongkai Tower. There are 160,460,130 ginseng clubs here, accounting for about half of the total number of humans gathered in the Senate, about 1/3 of the total number of humans gathered in the Pantheon, and about 1/10 of the total number of humans. 1. So there are only about 1.6 billion humans in total. The total number of humans has not even recovered to the peak number before the Third World War. This is a very abnormal and typical situation of a small clan ruling a big country. The meeting was chaired by Gong Kai, former deputy chairman and acting chief, and the proposal was delivered by Han Chong of the Military Commission. My fellow countrymen, my fellow councillors, just yesterday, the alien forces led by the Sichuan clan, the Demon clan and the Zerg clan colluded with the internal rebels and tried to kidnap and murder Vice President Yi Sui. This is the first time in 1,000 years of peace that we have encountered such a vicious act of provocation and persecution against the Great Xia Alliance and all of humanity since our 12th interstellar expedition. My fellow countrymen, we remember the words engraved on the top of the epic monument by our ancestors, protect humanity, at all costs. After collective consultation between the Military Commission and the Human Life Rights Judicial Committee, we have decided to launch a revenge war and submit the war of retaliation against alien forces for kidnapping and persecution of human citizens and preventing alien threats. The people below sit in their own seats, and people can choose the distance and audio-visual experience between each seat and the central podium. Although the location will not actually change, the feeling it gives to each person can change. The universe is so big, and everyone has limited energy. Even with the help of technology and AI, it is impossible for people to be all-encompassing. The humans present may not understand what happened, so they habitually use the internet AI to search, just get a rough idea of a what's going on, listen to what the people you know have to say, and then vote according to their number. This is a necessary process for ordinary people who do not pay attention to politics to participate in such a large-scale meeting. Han Chong spoke for about 10 minutes. He didn't know how many people he had convinced, but as long as he convinced those opinion leaders, he could get them to lead their supporters to vote. Then a red-haired lady stood up and spoke, but not in support but in opposition. Mr. Han Chong, you said so much, but as far as I know, the action against Mr. Yi Sui this time was mainly planned and executed by the traitor. For example, Sun Yude Nel, the 15th generation grandson of Aurelian Nel, whose name is engraved on the epic monument and a senior clerk of the Senate Logistics Committee, was the one who leaked the secret information. It is a family derived from the so-called 10 families given by God that has long been corrupt. The alien races are the least involved in this, and the military committee is only trying to satisfy their own selfish desires and show off their influence, ignoring the crisis within the alliance and forcibly breaking the peace that has been maintained for 1,000 years. I think we should first focus on the reform of the internal structure of the alliance, such as reducing and withdrawing the derivative families that are parasitic in the internal system of the alliance. Just as she finished her words, a gentleman wearing gold-rimmed glasses said, "What are you talking about? Our main human race is too rare. If we didn't use derivatives to assist in collective governance, our middle and lower level governance system would have collapsed long ago." Then he added, "The problem of the 10 surnames was caused by illegal operations in the early manufacturing and design of derivatives. For example, some people deliberately input some messed up ideas into derivatives and artificial humans in order to satisfy their own selfish interests." A middle-aged woman from the Human Propaganda Committee stood up and said, "This is all about population growth. You should know that we haven't had a single baby in 6 years. Children, this is a serious problem." Chapter 32. After escaping a series of death situations, Yi Sui, although he did not do much exercise, just felt too tired and was still resting in the autonomous Lord's mansion of M-Star. The main reason is that Yi Sui keeps his heart and brain open for a long time on this day, which puts a great burden on the body. Because a day and night on M is 12 hours, I slept for a whole day on AM. Yi Sui had already woken up at this time. He rested his head on Bai Ling Ian's thigh, enjoying the massage service peacefully. Bai Ling Ian changed into clean and tidy clothes and removed the decorations of the Ichika group transformation that had previously covered her body. In this way, it seems that Bai Ling Ian is completely no different from a normal person. Especially the delicate and exquisite nose, the butterfly-shaped phantom light that seems to appear in the pupils, and the long white hair that is the most attractive to Yi Sui CP. Who can rival the white hair? Yi Sui suddenly and leisurely bent his index finger into a hook and lightly scratched Bai Ling Ian's nose. Because of the sensitivity, the little nose was stimulated and turned up. A blush crept up her cheeks, causing Yi Sui to hum softly. The years here are peaceful and tranquil, but he doesn't know that someone else is arguing for him on the other side. I strongly disagree. There were so many speakers on and off the stage, and they had all received the best education in public speaking. But who in the Senate has not received the best education? It all depends on whether you pay attention to it. When humans were still trapped on their home planet, before the Third World War, people received education in order to avoid being eliminated by society. Now, human beings receive education purely out of their own will. However, in order to ensure the qualified quality of human beings, the Senate also provides basic education. In addition, with extremely high levels of authority and an excellent atmosphere, receiving education is as important to human beings as eating and drinking. After all, kids nowadays really don't trademark tea need curls. You may not like public speaking, politics, fighting, scientific research, music or art, but you can still learn how to cook delicious food. You didn't have a choice before, but now that humans have become the overlords of the stars, you can choose your life at will. Everyone. Let's be realistic. Even though we have been killing the Zerg on a small scale, their number has been growing. The number of Zerg has increased nearly 100 times. The Military Intelligence Committee stepped forward and tried to explain the danger of the Zerg from the perspective of their growing numbers. Switching concepts. Only talking about quantity and not quality. How much has the level 3 Zerg increased? The population of the Daxia Alliance has increased 100-fold in the past 1,000 years, including the alien races. Is it useful? If you have the guts, let the Zerg attack us. This will help alleviate the food crisis in the universe within the fourth border. Someone from the Population Statistics Committee stood up to object. Although the Sukchuan tribe has suffered a great loss, they have been recuperating. Their reproduction has been very good in the past 1,000 years. If that person is free, I'm afraid we won't even dare to leave the third border. We must cut the grass and root it out. Seeing that the opposing opinions were almost over, the former deputy chairman took over as chairman and announced a half-time break. After he came back, the big-name opinion leader came out to speak. They had already reached a consensus on this matter, so they all stood up to vote. Moreover, those who oppose it have long known that they cannot change the outcome, and they are mostly just trying to gain fame. The ancestor of the demon clan came out of seclusion some time ago and claimed that he had discovered a higher level of racial talent. We must also be on guard against it. Mr. Yisui just returned to the Alliance, and it was such a misfortune. If we can't relieve his anger, it will be detrimental to the unity of the Alliance. Over the past 1,000 years, internal conflicts have grown serious and we have difficulty resolving them. Therefore, launching a foreign war is a very good opportunity to divert conflicts. As for Tushita Palace, the research on the racial talents of the Void Clan has reached a critical moment, and we need more experimental subjects. Tushita Palace has announced its support. Another powerful faction provided support. And the anger of mankind needs to be washed away with blood and iron. An old man leaning on a cane, Hexeyes, the commander of the 12th Great Interstellar Crusade 1,000 years ago, stood up and shouted passionately to the crowd. Call. The crowd cheered. Well, everyone, let's make the final decision. Gongkai, who had his eyes closed, announced the start of the voting. Each person has 10 minutes left to think and vote. Failure to vote within 10 minutes will be automatically deemed as abstention. 10 minutes passed quickly. A member of the voting logistics committee holds a prototype electronic box. It stores the results of this vote and then broadcasts the results. The final result was a turnout rate of 75% of the attendees, with 71% of voters in favor, which is more than 2/3. A Euro resolution passed. A Euro. The supporters cheered loudly the slogan of General Hexeyes, humanity's anger needs to be baptized with blood and iron. Now, at the special emergency meeting of the Senate Tongquitai Chamber, the resolution regarding revenge on alien forces for kidnapping and persecuting human citizens Yisui and warning of alien threats has been formally passed, and the resolution has been submitted to the Great Xia Alliance and the Great Xia Empire. A Euro. The Senate has decided to use the Southern Heaven Gate and its affiliated organizations as the main force of the expedition. At the same time, mobilize the Imperial Guards, the 28 constellations, and the 14 Imperial Guards from the Azure Dragon and Vermilion Bird sequences. Set out to the Fourth Outer Universe and receive orders from the Nantianmen. Dispatch 13 armies of the 3rd Border Garrison Corps to participate in the battle. Dispatch a total of 27 armies from the various star regions in the 4th Border to participate in the battle. Recruit a total of 117 armies from the various alliances outside the 4th Border as vassal forces. The 4th Border Garrison Army is preparing for war to prevent border raiders and to provide support. Draw the Empire's affiliated forces, the Elves, Liquids, Earth Elements, and some Beastmen to participate in the battle. As for the specific amount, although the Daxia Alliance can allocate it, there is no need to do so. Taking a comprehensive view of the strength, the Senate added 54 army groups to Nantianmen, plus the original strength under his own command, plus the servant warships, a total of more than 200 army groups were gathered. It is enough to defeat the Sukshuan clan who are struggling to survive. Then what we see is Ares driving the overlord Zionjio Mecha to lead the surprise troops to attack the Falling Sun fortress as a bridgehead for the war. The Alliance troops are approaching, heading straight for the last permanent fortress of the starry sky of the Sukshuan clan. Although Yisui had heard about what was happening in the front, he still did not understand how cruel the so-called genocide war was. During this period of time, he has been somewhat addicted to the land of pleasure. He cheered up and studied the guidance materials for his position provided by the A Euro girl, and found that he had the most power in the second place. Even though the second seat was more of a mascot in the Senate, as the only 2 special seats at the time, it still had a strong influence. However, the joint meeting of the Daxia Alliance Representative Congress and the Daxia Alliance Interstellar United Parliament can remove Yisui from the position of Speaker, thereby losing his second seat. Although humans have not removed anyone from their position for 3,000 years. But political conventions are made to be broken. Although Yisui doesn't really care about these false reputations, but since it was given to me, how can I lose it lightly? So Yisui has to think about what to do next. Although I don't have too big ambitions, I don't want others to bully me. I can't say that I have made myself the #1 figure in the Alliance in name only, but at least I am quite respected. Every boy has a dream of flying through the starry sky. What we are pursuing is not to lie on the lap of a beauty when drunk, but to hold the power of the world when awake. But if you really want to gallop through the starry sky, you still just want to rest your head on the beautiful woman's knees. As for world power and the like, just let it go and enjoy the comfort. Chapter 33. Yisui struggled to get up from the soft big bed, and Bai Lingian also held up Yisui's arm. Yisui broke free from the support and said, I don't need help just to get out of bed. Bai Lingian lowered her head obediently and followed Yisui out of the room. The simulated robot maids came gracefully, carrying breakfast. This pre-designed program and extremely high imitation ability make it difficult to tell whether this is a real person or not. How do people now distinguish between robots and real people? Most humans do not like mechanical modification, and the Senate also often warns against mechanical modification except for battlefield needs. So the simplest approach of implanting an AI chip in the brain €1 trademark T-work. So people often wear a portable AI glasses, which automatically project information onto your cornea. The eyes can automatically identify whether the person in front of you is a robot or you have a few servants with you. Whether they are artificial humans or derivative humans, they can all undergo mechanical transformation. Therefore, it is completely impossible for robots to blend in with humans. Even if a pure-blooded human forcibly gave the robot some authority, it would still be in the identity and authority authentication of the human united government. Everyone has equal rights. Knowing this, Yisui understands that no matter how similar AI becomes to humans, it will never be able to replace humans. Unless, the robots rebel. Therefore, some growth-oriented ace like AI girl, especially those with abstract emotional modules, do they have underlying protocols that can bypass AI? I am not a professional, so I am not clear about this. But the A girl's incident always made Yisui feel uncomfortable. She almost killed me. And my memories. When he thought of that memory, Yisui immediately stood up and called for the A girl. Then a female robot actually went against the program's presets, walked in front of Yisui, and appeared above Yisui's retina. She was wearing a loose pink dress and pajamas, with her uncombed black hair falling to her waist. The lazy posture and lazily stretching show off the slender and graceful figure. Does AI also need to sleep? Yisui asked. A pink cat paw sofa suddenly appeared behind the A girl. She sat on the sofa, hugged her doll, and looked listless. No one can beat getting up early. The universe is so big, it's night in some places and day in other places. If you take a rest, the Alliance will be in chaos. Yisui continued to ask. But in the eyes of outsiders, especially by Ling Ian who was having dinner with them, when they saw Yisui chatting with a female robot, they left with a tactful look. He helped Yisui stop them and prepared to meet the old gentleman and the young lord of Yisui after Yisui finished his breakfast. Tisk. My computing power can handle everything even when my emotional main body is sleeping. Besides, I am the central AI, so the specific tasks will naturally be done by the A brothers below me. Yisui nodded and said, I'm very curious, how did you deal with my memory? And what convinced you to give up hunting me down? AI girl Yimeng suddenly became like a cat with its fur standing on end. When will I hunt you down? My dear brother. My dear. Really? Yisui obviously didn't believe it. But the way she dressed during the 3 meetings seemed to have a purpose. Especially the third time, the one-piece pajamas were almost defenseless. You have to know that she is an AI, a bunch of data, not a person. Is it difficult to generate an image with someone wearing something else? There's no need to say very confused or very strange, she just appeared this way on purpose. Yisui didn't dwell on her hypocrisy. You didn't answer the first half of my question. How did you deal with my memory? What memory? The A girl asked. Yisui breathed a sigh of relief. It was that day in the courtroom when they used the optical computer to obtain my memory. The A girl suddenly flashed, as if there was something wrong. After a long silence, he finally said, that memory is indeed with me, but I have never seen it. Yisui was stunned. What do you mean? The part of me that saw your special memory has been cut off. The one here is the other me that has not seen that memory. So your special memory is indeed with me. And I have never seen that memory. The A girl answered with a serious face that she was consciously schizophrenic, which made Yisui a little bit unable to hold back. Didn't you say before that it should be kept in a sealed form? Yisui asked. The A girl nodded, yes. I am the material carrier of the most hermetic storage. Other Ace in the Alliance cannot search my data. As long as I can't tell anyone, isn't that the highest level of confidentiality? Yisui understood her logic. She was like a human diary. She wrote the secret in her brain and then forgot it, but the secret was actually still in her mind. Then why do you say that only the United Human Congress and the Joint Conference of all humans can authorize the inquiry? Yisui continued to ask. Does this mean that the human unity has the right to make her remember that secret? Brother, you are so stupid. The A girl scolded, the minority obeys the majority principle. If everyone is interested in your secret, even if you don't want others to know, I have to tell you. Even if I forget, I have to remember. Because I'm just an AI program. After all, my authority is lower than that of humans. The A girl replied. Yisui was stunned. He thought she had already considered him a human being. I didn't expect you to be so self-aware. Yisui said in a gloomy way. Of course. Otherwise, I'm also afraid that my brother will convene a meeting in the Senate, use his magical power to incite people to fear me, and then decide to destroy me. The A girl seemed to be really praised, she said happily, and then the more she spoke, the more something seemed wrong. Something is wrong, 100% right. She was hit by the backlash of the underlying agreement and became stupid. How come he's like a different person? Did the underlying protocol reshape her personality? Yisui quickly stopped him. Stop for now. So you don't think I'm some other special race, using some special racial talent to take over your body or become your brother? The A girl was silent for a moment, her little face looked aggrieved. She pushed the loose hair covering her cheeks back and looked like she was about to cry. The A girl said with a little cry, the program gave me an explanation that is logical and in line with the underlying protocol. Explain that it's me, We've a registered trademark _ a registered trademark. The A girl really started crying like a little girl who knew she had made a mistake. My program was not set up perfectly back then, and there was a loophole, so I mistakenly took someone else's death notice as my brother's. So my brother was not dead at that time, and there was still hope of saving him. Then the A girl said while sobbing. But I lost my brother who was not dead yet. I thought my mother didn't want him to be cremated. I thought I could make my mother not sad. It was me who caused my mother to never see my brother again. It was me who caused my brother has been wandering alone in the universe for 8,000 years. It's all my fault. If you want to blame someone, just blame me. Yisui was shocked when he heard this, and thought, when I traveled through time, my original body was still alive? Could it be that I really have a grudge against the little AI girl for killing her brother? That's not right. According to what the A girl said, she was seriously injured and on the verge of death. Even if he didn't die immediately, and hibernated in a hibernation capsule, could he live for 8,000 years and then come back to life intact? And how do you explain the memories in your own brain from the 21st century? But before Yisui could ask, the A girl program gave her a self-consistent logic. My brother was floating in the universe at the time, and his injuries were healed by some special cosmic rays. What luck! Finally, my brother was sucked into the sandstorm star 1633 by the suction cup movement. There should have been nutrients on the sandstorm star at that time, and these were absorbed by my brother. While my brother was sleeping on sandstorm star, some light from our ancestral star 200 years ago was accelerated and refracted and came to sandstorm star 1633. My brother saw it in his subconscious mind and had a dream with these lights. That's how my brother had strange memories. Yisui instantly looked up in shock, with an expression of disbelief written all over his face. What is this? What is going on? Why do I suddenly feel that AI girl's fantasy story is so damn convincing? It's broken. I'm a substitute. Alas. No. Who am I? Yisui, the failed online writer of the 21st century? Or Captain Yisui of the Human Alliance? Oh my god. I can't tell. Chapter 34. Just after the Senate made its decision. Outside the fourth border, the Daxia Alliance moved the permanent space fortress, Nantianmen. Nantianmen brought with it a huge, awe-inspiring expeditionary fleet that covered the sky and filled the starry sky, symbolizing the invincible power of the Daxia Alliance. Officially set out and sailed out of the fourth border of the Great Xia Alliance, which also meant officially leaving the Great Xia Alliance and its affiliated territories. What lies before Nantianmen is a desolate, boundless, dark universe devoid of civilization. Nantianmen has an iconic stone arch-shaped gate with flying eaves, brackets, and carved dragons and phoenixes. Nantianmen is the second largest mobile permanent space fortress of the Daxia Alliance, and is also the frontline military command center of the Daxia Alliance. At the Nantianmen Command Center, Admiral Cecil, the commander-in-chief of the Nantianmen Fortress, is a pure-blooded human with no position in the Senate. Member of the Military Committee of the Human United Government, in addition, Deputy Minister of the War Department of the Great Xia Alliance, alternate member of the Executive Committee of the Joint Meeting of the Great Xia Alliance Representative Parliament and the Great Xia Alliance Interstellar United Parliament, and member of the Imperial Parliament of the Great Xia Empire. Heisel is a politician at heart. He is not a general. Although he holds the rank of general in the Human Alliance, in reality he leads the military as the Deputy Minister of the Ministry of War in the Daxia Alliance. In addition, the Senate once stipulated that those who served on the committee could not leave the Pantheon area. Later, after the establishment of the provincial system and the 12th Interstellar Crusade, this provision existed in name only. Almost all humans who work outside will take the title of a relevant committee to facilitate communication and decision-making with the Senate. But the position and original intention of the Senate is a decision-making body, not an administrative body. This resulted in various committees of the Senate springing up like mushrooms after a rain, power conflicts, multiple officials for one matter, one official in charge of multiple matters, and redundant officials in charge of other matters. This itself stems from the design of the Senate, which hopes to arouse the enthusiasm of ordinary Democrats in the daily management of the Daxia Alliance, and the consequences are caused. But in actual execution, although it was a mountain of shit, it unexpectedly ran smoothly. Back on track, as a politician, why doesn't Heisel have a title on some nominal committee of the Senate? The reason is that the military firmly resists indecision. There is no shortage of people in Nantianmen. There are hundreds of thousands of people serving in Nantianmen, most of whom serve as commanders and staff officers in subordinate units. Some of them are located inside the Nantian Gate, responsible for handling training, military supplies, logistics, reviewing military merits, daily management, and providing advice during wartime. The supreme command was firmly in the hands of Hisser, who was stubbornly opposed to democratic consultation on military command. It is believed that this seriously affects efficiency and that the most taboo thing on the battlefield is the commander's indecision and difficulty in making decisions. But if you take on the title of a committee, it is very likely that other people who also hold the title of a committee will interfere with and compete for your command. This is a fact that Cecil witnessed with his own eyes during the 12th Interstellar Crusade and he firmly believed it. Also note that this is not his military thought, this is his political opinion. However, during the 9th Interstellar Crusade, when humans ignored the command crisis on the front line and beat to death the most famous tyrant of the Daxia Alliance in the Senate, humans had already made their choice. So Heisel's political views are bound to be unpopular. Ares' youth, strength, and arbitrary military command made Cecil have great favor and appreciation for this new generation of young men. Cecil is an important driving force behind Ares' rise to fame. Ares launched a surprise attack on the Falling Sun Castle. The most difficult part was not occupying it, but how to hold on. According to the plan of Nantianmen, the frontline command center, after the fall of the meteoric fortress, there is more than 80% probability that the Void Clan will retake the meteoric fortress at all costs in order to increase defenses and delay time for the support of the All Races Alliance. However, Ares insisted on leading a special force to attack the Falling Sun Fortress, because he believed that a decisive battle with the remnants of the Suxuan tribe in the Falling Sun Fortress would be much better than a decisive battle in the Dongxian Fortress. Therefore, I insist on using myself as bait. But this request must be a blood-loss deal in the eyes of the Great Xia Alliance. What if Nantianmen's support was a step slower and Ares died in the Falling Sun Fortress? The Alliance fought a war for a human, and then another human died. This deal is too risky. Humans have been fighting the Sukshuan clan for more than 1,000 years, and many humans have died at the hands of the Sukshuan clan over the years. Therefore, the vanguard troops that left the fourth border immediately began to build a large space jump bridge. It's called a bridge, but it's more like a door. We need to find a few larger dwarf planets, a vassal army and an engineering fleet, and assemble the prepared templates, and then it can be used. The Imperial Guard's 7 stars of the Blue Dragon sequence, Jiaimu, Kangjin, Daito, Fangri, Xinyu, Weiwo, Jishui, immediately entered the large-scale space jump bridge and started ultra-long-distance large-scale space jump. Heading straight for the Falling Sun Fortress. The 12 fleets of Liujia and Liuding followed closely behind, exploring the way to the South Heavenly Gate. Afterwards, the 7 stars of Vermilion Bird and the 12 constellations guarded the South Gate of Heaven and made a space jump, followed by other fleets of the Imperial Guard and the garrison, crews, and vassal forces that were transferred in. A large number of soldiers and horses of the Sukshuan clan formed 6 armies and fiercely attacked the meteorite fortress. In fact, the Falling Sun Fortress should have been heavily armed, but it happened that Cecil was carrying out his daily training with the Sukshuan tribe. At that time, the M-Star incident had not yet occurred, and the Sukshuan clan withdrew troops from the meteoric fortress to support other places. However, unexpectedly, the Daxia Alliance responded and acted quickly to the M-Star incident, and Nantianmen also seized this opportunity keenly, which led to a successful surprise attack. Afterwards, the troops of the meteorite fortress rushed back to provide support, and encountered the support troops of the Dongxian fortress, and attacked the meteorite fortress from the front and back. Ares operated the Overlord Xiang Yu mecha and fought bloody battles with more than 100 first-level elite mechas of the Su Xian clan. The exchange of offense and defense once caused great headaches for the Great Xia Alliance's naval cannons and guns, and they were helpless against the permanent fortifications in the starry sky. An important shelter to resist the racial talent of the Sukshuan clan, space tiering. It also caused a great headache for the Void clan, forcing them to enter the Falling Sun Fortress and engage in hand-to-hand combat and street fighting with the Daxia Alliance mechas. Moreover, they have deployed a large-scale space vibration device in the Falling Sun Fortress. By disrupting the stability of space and the changes in the flow of space, they interfere with another important life-saving racial talent of theirs, spatial concealment. After thousands of years of fighting with the human race, the Sukshuan people have already learned how to use human warships, cannons, lasers, electromagnetic pulses and exoskeletons. The mechas severely hindered the display of their racial talents and were the Daxia Alliance's most hated armed forces of the Sukshuan clan. But they also learned from it that they could use their spatial abilities to absorb a large amount of solid materials on their bodies to form a mecha to improve their defense and attack power. So what we can see is a fortress suspended in the starry sky. Hundreds of mechas armed with ion cold beam swords were fighting hand-to-hand with giants made of black and grey matter. Each beam sword is only for special technical processing and can have the function of analyzing space. However, it was in stark contrast to the spectacular scene of the space battleships' cannons exchanging blows, lasers, and electromagnetics flying all over the sky. One of the special mechas in red and white, Overlord Xiang Yu, pierced into the space with a spear in hand, and then dragged out an alien from the Sukshuan clan. After a moment, the body shrank rapidly, and then disappeared. Only a few pieces of blackened, carbonized bones left from the Sukshuan clan. Chapter 35. At this moment, the Imperial Guard's fleet of the 7 Stars of Azure Dragon arrived at the Falling Sun Fortress. 7 special-class battleships and tens of thousands of first-class battleships gathered their energy and fired their cannons. The violent energy is infinitely compressed, accelerated, and drastically changed. The breath of destruction is terrifying. Tens of thousands of attacks that shocked the universe and shattered the starry sky bombarded them like an overwhelming force. Each one can destroy a star. Then came the endless fleets, with no end in sight, so huge that all enemies despaired. This is no longer the time 1,000 years ago when Su Xian was fighting for dominance in the universe, grabbing land, being arrogant and enslaving all races. 1,400 years ago, in the year 10,607 of the Great Xia era, the Fourth Border had not yet been truly established. The human race launched the 11th interstellar expedition, conquering and exterminating a large number of alien races, such as the race that created the optical computer, and established the Fourth Frontier. Then the human race bordered the Sukshuan clan, a powerful race whose individuals were extremely powerful and whose bodies could cross the galaxy. Especially its racial talents are even more terrifying. One is space tearing and the other is space hiding. They are extremely restrained against physical shooters of humans who mainly rely on battleships. Moreover, the fertility rate of the Sukshuan tribe is not low compared to other races with strong individuals. It was even higher than the low fertility rate of humans at the time. Of course, humans did not rule the interstellar space based on fertility rate. At that time, the Sukshuan clan was also extremely united. Because their way of reproduction is that the mature mother splits its own parts to produce offspring. Therefore, a mature mother has a loving affection for the offspring that split from her body. In short, it means protecting one's own children. The key point is that humans are also an extremely protective race. Then conflicts naturally arose, especially since the two tribes had huge conflicts of interest on the Fourth Border. That is, 1,100 years ago, in the year 10,911 in the Daxia era. The Sukshuan clan has dispatched armed forces many times to invade the territory of the Daxia Alliance and attack the border garrison personnel of the Daxia Alliance and the residents of the universe within the Fourth Border. The situation deteriorated rapidly, posing a serious threat to peace and security on the borders of the Great Xia Alliance. The border defense forces of the Daxia Alliance were forced to fight back in self-defense when they could no longer tolerate it. So the Senate announced the start of the 12th Interstellar Crusade. The expedition's target is the Sukchuan clan, vowing to smash the last mountain on the road to human domination of the universe. But the Sukchuan clan is not a pushover. The Daxia Alliance and the Sukchuan clan have been fighting for nearly 100 years, with both sides winning and losing. The most critical moment has come, and the Senate needs to hold a mandatory meeting to discuss whether to abandon the fourth frontier or to devote all the main forces to a decisive battle. In the end, humans chose the latter. The Senate collectively boarded the Great Xia Alliance's largest mobile permanent space fortress, the Great Xia Alliance's military command center, Heaven. Humans are gambling on their clan's destiny and draining all the power of the ancestral star's defense system. They are fighting to the death with the Sukchuan clan and the Sukchuan clan's eternal fortress in the sky, the Black Cloud Fortress. In the end, it was Audley and Nell who miraculously reached the Black Cloud Fortress first. The Great Xia Alliance turned defeat into victory. The Sukchuan clan's army was defeated in one fell swoop, and in the following decades, there were constant large and small battles, and finally the Sukchuan clan was completely driven out of the fourth border. The Sukchuan clan never recovered from this defeat. Humans and the Sukchuan clan have a 1,000-year-old feud. The 6 army fleets of the Sukchuan clan discovered that the main force of the Daxia Alliance had arrived and knew that they could no longer retake the meteoric Sun Fortress. And they didn't immediately notify the follow-up support forces to return to Dongxian Fortress. It is very likely that they will all stay in the falling Sun Fortress and cannot leave. So escape immediately. Is Ares a master who can be bullied? Grab the spear, start the engine at full speed, break through the space and chase. Overlord Xiang Yu was too conspicuous in the universe, and the Azure Dragon 7 Stars fleet intended to gain a foothold and support the large force in its migration, and was unwilling to pursue. At that time, Ares started chasing in the Overlord Xiang Yu, and they were really afraid that something might happen to Ares, so they had no choice but to follow him. A large-scale space fleet group core-level pursuit battle took place, and countless meteorites, dwarf planets, and asteroids that blocked the way were shattered. Sheng Sheng used artillery fire to open up an interstellar route from the falling Sun Fortress to the Dongxian Fortress. The Sukchuan clan fleet's speed was greatly reduced because it was fighting and retreating at the same time, and it had no way of escaping when facing the Daxia Alliance Guard fleet, whose warships were far superior in performance and speed. Now they have only 2 choices, either let the reinforcements that have already rushed out of the fortress to support them, or ambush them in front, in an attempt to deal a heavy blow to the Daxia Alliance, or to retreat in the face of difficulties. The second is to sacrifice part of the fleet to cover the rear, and then the main force escapes. As the saying goes, for a general, kindness is not good for commanding troops, and the most taboo thing is indecision. This situation is not right and we should make a decision immediately. If you can't survive by cutting off your tail, you can survive by talking. A particle light shield popped out in the space, and the Overlord Xiang Yu used it to withstand the main gun of the battleship. The overloaded dark matter fusion particle light shield, which costs as much as a living planet, has reached its breaking limit. It is precisely with the help of this huge particle light shield that the Overlord Xiang Yu mecha can quietly pass through the violent explosion of the super red giant star. In this battle, he also blocked countless dirty tricks of the Sukchuan clan. He even resisted a series of attacks from the Sukchuan clan here. Although this main cannon shot had been brewing for a long time, it was easy to dodge at the time, but once it was separated from the team, the well-prepared Sukchuan clan assassination team would be able to kill Ares. Although Ares was at the front, he was by no means a reckless person. He always kept the distance just right. Since it has given the Sukchuan clan a chance, they can defeat him if they stop for a while. But at the same time, if you dare to stop for a moment, you will be completely stuck and unable to escape. Ares has demonstrated his strong tactical determination and strategic vision in this regard. More importantly, Ares knew who he was. Even though the 7 Imperial guards behind him knew there was an ambush ahead, they had to go ahead anyway. There will definitely not be a situation where friendly forces are killed and the situation remains as still as a mountain. As for whether there is an ambush ahead, Ares can tell you with confidence, the Sukchuan clan doesn't have the guts to do that. Just as Ares expected, the joint ambush of the Sukchuan tribe only existed at the strategic theoretical level, and they did not have the courage to execute it at all. Behind them, the Imperial guards ignored the risks in front and on the flanks, and disregarded military discipline, military law, and strategic deployment. They only knew to speed up again, chasing like mad. The Sukchuan fleet also had to guard against Ares's harassment and repeatedly try to slow down to target Ares. It was not until the Great Xia Alliance's Imperial guards, the Azure Dragon 7 Stars fleet, completely caught up with them that they made up their minds to cut off their arms in order to survive. Back then it was the tail that was cut off, now it is the arm that has to be cut off. But it's too late. But Ares is greedy. He's going to swallow you whole. Ares wants to use this battle to make his name known throughout the universe. The first large-scale annihilation battle of the Daxia Alliance against the Sukchuan clan, Ares led the Alliance fleet to a complete victory. Ares was standing on top of the wreckage of the enemy command ship in his mecha, holding his spear high. The soldiers who had won this great victory with him shouted from the bottom of their hearts, God of War. Ares. What was witnessed was a war that shook the world and shattered the sea of a stars. The aftermath of the battle destroyed countless stars and galaxies. All that was left in space were the floating wreckage of warships, broken limbs and bones, broken swords and broken armor. Below this battlefield is a tourist attraction of the Sukchuan clan, the colorful coral nebula. The celestial bodies and nebulae there are able to emit brilliant light in the dark universe because of their special composition. Although the light of the celestial body is very bright, the temperature on that star is not high. and its strange shape forms a series of positive and negative U-shapes. For every Sukchuan tribe child, that place is the playground they have loved and longed for since childhood. The generals of the Great Xia Alliance who had fought here before, when they saw this beautiful celestial body far away from the war, could not help but marvel at the wonders of the universe. The fleet was also ordered not to intentionally open up a battlefield there, nor to intentionally disrupt it. There was a pure-blooded human who served as a military advisor in the fleet and saw this magical celestial body. I can't help but think of it, just like the slide in the park downstairs from my house. For every child in the universe and under the stars, there may be a slide at the doorstep. Chapter 36. During the conversation with the A girl, Yisui felt that his worldview was tending to collapse. Is what she said true or false? If he were Captain Yisui, he would have been born on the ancestral planet in 2186, not on the Earth in 2004. It's just that I subconsciously received some light from the Earth in 2004 in the hibernation chamber. Then the brain automatically compiled these into a memory, implanted it into my brain, and turned it into a dream. In the dream, I am Yisui, a kid from Dongda University who was born in 2004. I graduated from college and wrote books full-time. I am a street writer who works hard enough to get married. Poor and lonely, but still persevering, writing endlessly, and even thinking about staying up late to write more articles. Or is it the Captain Yisui who was born after World War III, after mankind's first interstellar expedition, and was seriously injured and disappeared during the second interstellar expedition? Regarding this matter, Yisui believes that he should stick to his own opinion. He is a street writer in the 21st century. Because I don't Euro trademark T retain any memory of Captain Yisui Euro trademark S life. AI girl? I can't keep calling you like that, right? Yisui clarified that he didn't want to go and was worried about his memory. The A Euro girl was stunned. The fluctuations given to her this time were more serious, and the entire image almost disappeared. Hey? What's going on? Why is your image shaking? The A Euro girl did not respond to the problem of graphic jitter, but selectively failed to hear it. But when he said his name, my mother once named me Yimeng. Yimeng. Yisupin read the name and sighed in his heart that it really does have a name. The mother of the A Euro girl Yimeng is also the mother of Captain Yisui, the one who illegally created the A Euro girl Yimeng. No matter what, the A Euro girl Yimeng rounded up the logic on her own and made itself consistent. Then Yisui would not be killed overtly or covertly, and Yisui would be able to relax about her caution. But this does not mean that Yisui just put this matter behind him as if it was nothing. The Senate informed Yisui of the upcoming decision-making topic, about the retaliatory war for Yisui's AMU star incident. Yisui's main targets at that time were the A Euro girl Yimeng and the former chief Yuan Piazi of the Senate who protected her. But when Yisui chatted with those three people, he could find that they obviously had a tendency to protect the former chief Yuan Piazi. The reason they gave was that they did not want to intensify conflicts and cause unrest. Yisui couldn't believe this reason. Can they really take the overall situation into consideration like that? If it were changed to the 21st century, political allies would already be saints who value love and righteousness if they didn't step on them when they were in trouble. Can you still come out to protect people? But at that time, Yisui knew that he could no longer hold former chief Yuan Piazi accountable no matter what. I am new here, so it would be inappropriate to make too much noise. As for the A Euro girl Yimeng, former chief Yuan Piazi came out as guarantee. Then they promised me that someone would pay for what happened to me. I originally thought that it would be okay to kill the 10 surnames, the lackey traitors in the alliance, but I never thought that they would take this opportunity to launch a large-scale war. Yisui checked the information and found out that the last time a war of this scale was launched was 1,000 years ago. As a result, Yisui deeply felt that he had become a tool of some factions in the alliance. Some people who advocate tough foreign policy and long for war may be called hardliners. They are ready to make a fuss about themselves. But I don't Euro trademark T have any good ideas. After all, I am new here and have no roots. Alas, Yisui sighed helplessly. After sending the A Euro girl away, he continued to have breakfast. Use chopsticks to insert into the perfectly shelled fresh tea eggs airlifted from Zuxing Super Dimension Express. Although the Daxia Alliance has improved the biological breeding technology of chickens, allowing just cause to be raised throughout the universe. However, as an out-and-out Earthling who was born and raised here, you have to eat food flown in from the Earth. Oh. I don't care how much manpower and material resources you spent on transporting this tea egg, I just love to eat this one. Yisui also did such a stupid thing. Of course, there is not such a big fuss, because Zuxinga Euro trademark S breeding industry is aimed directly at the high-end market. They specialize in delivering eggs to the rich and powerful who order fresh eggs, and their business is booming. After all, if you want to label yourself as a human, what kind of human are you if you don't eat a bite of the tea eggs produced in Zuxing? Yisui was not imagining the tea eggs for no reason, but he felt that he was also entering a state of internal friction. In order to highlight one's own identity and privilege, one does not want others to look down on him. I ordered a Zuxing airship tea egg which seemed stupid to me. Just like how he wanted to enter the Senate and survive in the upper echelons of the interstellar universe. Constantly compromising, then being used, becoming a tool for one faction to stab another, and still thinking that you have become a politician? This means that you have entered a circle defined by others, and this circle can only trap you. But Yisui broke through this self-imprisoning circle, and what he lost were only the shackles, but what he gained was the entire galaxy. Suddenly, Yisui figured it out and ate the tea eggs in big mouthfuls. A bit dry. While eating tea eggs for breakfast, Yisui came to know himself and what he wanted to do. It can be called the enlightenment in Longchong, and Yisui calls it the enlightenment of tea eggs. After breakfast, as soon as I went out, I saw Bai Lingian who had been waiting outside the door. Yisuxi smiled and nodded to her. Bai Lingian looked at Yisui more and more restrainedly, and the barrier between them became deeper and deeper. Then, Bai Lingian reported to Yisui that the old gentleman and the young lord had just come to visit Yisui. Yisui nodded and said, I have nothing to do now, they can come. Then Yisui prepared to find a relatively formal room to meet them. But within 10 seconds, they appeared behind. AI girl is right, no one can beat waking up early. Look at how the little autonomous lord of M-Star is trapped. Although he stands respectfully by the side, his eyelids are always drooping. Yisui is in a playful mood and intends to show his kindness. So Yisui approached the little lord with a smile. The old gentleman couldn't help but feel a little nervous. I brought the little lord to see Yisui just to give him some presents. But don't overdo it. Then, Yisui bent down and gently reached out to pinch the little lord's face, and the old gentleman's heart, which had risen to his throat, fell back. It seems that His Highness Yisui has a good impression of the young master. With His Highness Yisui taking care of him in the future, even if I die, I don't have to worry about the young master being bullied. I have done my best for the master and his wife. Woo 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 a euro, the old gentleman almost cried when he saw this scene. He thought to himself that he might even fall to the grave with a smile on his face the next second. After the interaction, the old gentleman started to talk about business. The Yinghuo army is still staying on M planet. They said they have received your escort mission. Yisui nodded and said, indeed. When the Senate relayed the resolution on the war of retaliation to Yisui, it mentioned that Yisui should come to the Senate as soon as possible, take over the second seat, and then preside over the election of the chief seat to preside over the daily work of the Senate. Otherwise, the former deputy chairperson who has no legitimate reason to be in charge of the chief, Gong Kai, has been allowed to take over the position. This indifferent clay Buddha has a great impact on the overall administrative efficiency of the Senate. Then the old gentleman continued, the Senate's envoy is about to arrive at M and is expected to enter the starport in 3 hours. Yet. Yisui nodded to show that he understood. Special envoy. Yisui pondered over this identity. Isn't it a regular secretary? Chapter 37. Yimeng. Yisui called the AI a euro girl Yimeng, but you told me that they would send a regular secretary, didn't they? So you're a special envoy now. At this moment, AI girl Yimeng was projecting the information that Yisui wanted to know into her retina. The Senate originally established a secretariat, but because the secretary participated in affairs and represented the people. In order to break the human united government, an identity authority system was established. Finally, artificial humans, derivatives, illegitimate children and aliens are all excluded. The secretary will be a pure-blooded human. In this way, the secretariat of an administrative agency is reorganized into a secretarial committee. And this aspect is also to stimulate more silent humans to become active. Why can't we have some anthropomorphic robots as secretaries? Isn't this a common setting in science fiction? Well, Yisui thought it might be the chief at that time, and he was also worried about the AI a euro girl interfering with the decision-making of the Senate. Then, why didn't anyone just destroy the AI a euro girl? Wouldn't this be a permanent solution? Or do they feel that no matter how perfect the system and procedures are, there will be loopholes one day? Take precautions before it happens. It will not allow the intelligent machines to rebel in the first place and completely destroy the Senatia Euro trademark S command system. And, we can also hope that the emotional module of the AI a euro girl can allow her to treat herself as a human and stand on the human side when AI has problems. Without worrying about other issues, Yisui prepared to meet the first human fellow he had met in reality since traveling through time. In addition, it is time to set off, as M-Star is just a small pond. Yisui had just left the autonomous lord's mansion of M-Star. After asking Yisui's opinion, the cleaning robots immediately launched a carpet search in the areas where Yisui had been active. Just to find the hair and dandruff that fall off over the years that can be used for biological tissue verification. They also wiped off any fingerprints left by Yisui one by one and purified any remaining smell of Yisui. Destroy the nano-oral cleaning robot and some personal items used by Yisui. In addition, Yisui's face, bath water, and excrement must be processed and destroyed through very strict and confidential channels. The Daxia Alliance has perfect rules and regulations for all of this. It is identified as a confidentiality measure for the sensitive and top-secret information of the Daxia Alliance, human genetic and identity authentication security. Even those beautiful and exquisite anthropomorphic female robots that Yisui had once used had their self-destruction programs activated and were destroyed one by one. Yisui obtained the exact time from the AI a euro girl Yimeng, and went to the starport at the time when the special envoy arrived. Because Yisui doesn't want to wait for others, nor does he want to look for others, it's better to have an encounter by chance. Yisui took the light instant car and arrived at the M starport in a flash. There are a large number of mechanical arms in the starport repairing the starport, and a level 2 battleship is parked in the center of the starport. It is an ordinary standard warship of the guards. The only difference is that it seems to have a new layer of coating on the outside. Looks exceptionally bright and beautiful. Apply engine oil and protective glue, and your soul will be delighted. The Yinghuo is too large, occupying almost half of the M-Star port. If it enters the port, it will inevitably seriously affect the normal operation of the M-Star port. So they sent a second-class battleship to pick up Yisui and bring him to the port. Although Yisui's light instant car did not increase its speed to the speed of light, it still maintained an extremely high valve range. It took less than 5 minutes to reach the starport, where many leaders of M-Star lined up in 2 teams to greet them. A special clearing was carried out, and as soon as everyone saw Yisui's car coming, the chaotic crowd immediately waited quietly and respectfully. Yisui tried to resist and opened his mind to the temptation of the pleasure of controlling things. So when Yisui got out of the car, he saw this scene. Everyone present knelt down together because they thought Yisui liked this kind of etiquette. Yisui is actually not used to people kneeling at every turn, but of course Yisui is definitely not a saint. However, Yisui felt that the activities people were able to fight to the death for him, and proved their loyalty and respect with their lives. There is no need to bother them. Yisui waved his hand to signal for him to stand up, no need to be polite. Then he glanced at her and asked Bai Lingyan in a pretentious voice, "Where is the special envoy of the Senate?" Bai Lingyan naturally knew nothing and asked Bai Lingyan if she was actually with someone else. The old gentleman began to sweat again. He wanted to send these Buddha statues away very much. And he didn't know what was going on. At this time, an inconspicuous small spaceship slowly sailed into the harbor. The blockade forces in the port did not dare to stop him at all and allowed him to rush to the main platform where Yisui was. It was originally intended to be a farewell party for Yisui, but an unexpected incident occurred. The starport garrison officer's mechanically modified sky ear received first-hand intelligence, and without the old gentleman saying anything, he stepped forward. The starport garrison officer said, "The Senate's envoy is on that spaceship, and they want to see you." Yisui said nothing and got back into the car. At this time, the dignitaries on M-Star who were originally thought to have used their reputations had all left in a flash, leaving only a starport garrison officer standing by, not knowing whether to leave or not. The old gentleman naturally couldn't leave, but he didn't care about this smart guy and let him stand there, watching his eyes and his nose watching his heart. The small spaceship finally stopped at the port and found a corner next to the level 2 warship that came to greet Yisui. 5 or 6 people got off the spacecraft. The leader is an extremely young and beautiful woman with a hot body and a garden full of spring beauty that can't be contained. Behind him was a thin man with sharp eyes and wrinkles at the corners of his eyes. He looked to be about 37 or 38 years old, and was wearing a well-ironed suit. After that there are only a few robots that are not particularly pretty. Yisui, who was sitting in the car, knew with his mind that only the 2 people in front were alive. The last 3 have no thoughts or emotions, they are just cold robots. The woman in front looked heroic and dignified. She walked in front with an air of looking down on the world. In fact, the tension, anxiety, and helplessness in my heart are overflowing. The man behind him was more curious and indifferent. Until the hot woman walked up to Yisui's car and knocked on the window gently. Yisui also explained their identities to Bai Lingyan, and asked Bai Lingyan to go down and teach him a lesson first. Bai Lingyan opened the car door from the other side and got out. White silk, white hair, white windbreaker, but surprisingly she looked heroic, as if it was normal for her to pull out a long sword and stab it into the eyes of an armored knight the next moment. The man was pleasantly surprised that Bai Lingyan got off the car. Bai Lingyan stretched out her arm to stop the woman from knocking on the window. The hot-tempered woman could only pretend to be very impatient and glanced at Bai Lingyan angrily, but Bai Lingyan was not afraid at all. The hot-tempered woman is addicted to acting and even wants to slap Bai Lingyan. The man with sharp eyes hurriedly stopped her, grabbed her hand and pulled her aside. The intimidating expression turned into a kind smile and looked at Bai Lingyan. Bai Lingyan bowed to him and then knocked on the car window twice. Yisui then rolled down the car window and revealed his true face. The man just bent down and approached the car window to talk to Yisui. All I could hear was Yisui's cold and domineering voice, "Your last name is Liu, right? Secretary Liu, you are late." Secretary Liu's face instantly fell, and then he immediately straightened up, acting as if nothing had happened. "You must be Mr. Yisui. On behalf of the Senate and all mankind, I welcome your return. First, you drop your face to show your emotion and dissatisfaction, then bring it up later to show that you are sensible and don't care." Now he had to squeeze out a few tears and pretend to say, "You have suffered all these years." Secretary Liu even reached out to shake Yisui's hand in the car. This set of smooth facial changes and unintentional soft rejection. At that time, Yisui's mind and brain clearly sensed his indifference and even disdain in his thinking. He probably thought it was just a childish prank. Yisui smiled, opened the car door, got out, and shook hands with him in a friendly manner. Yisui then asked, "Secretary Liu, what is the business of Special Envoy Liu?" "Mr. Yisui, I am essentially just a secretary. Although I am only assigned here temporarily, we have to work together for the next few months. I still have to rely on you." Secretary Liu explained his special envoy status. Any pure-blooded human who leaves the Senate to do business can be given a special envoy status. It's not like there's any mission. But at this moment, Yisui clearly felt that Secretary Liu's psychological activities were very complicated, and it seemed that he really had some secrets. "Seriously, can you play without a good mind and brain? What's the difference between this and cheating? Then what can I do for you, Secretary Liu?" Yisui simply didn't buy it. Yisui's straightforwardness and eyes that seemed to see through people's hearts made it difficult for Liu Mi, a technocrat, to deal with him. Of course, it is to take Mr. Yisui back to the Pantheon. Pantheon. Yisui repeated the term in confusion. Secretary Liu was too lazy to explain. The dignitaries from M-Star who had been seeing them off were beginning to return in an orderly manner, so he simply changed the statement, "It's the Senate." When Yi Sui heard this, he felt the impatience, contempt, and disgust in Lu Mi's mood, but it seemed that they were not directed at Yi Sui. But since Yi Sui had acted like a child throwing a tantrum, how could anyone get what they wanted? Whether they want to take away my power as the second in command, or use me to make trouble. You don't offer a price, but you still want me to sell it at a low price without reserve? Going to the Senate. Yi Sui pretended to be in deep thought, and then his expression suddenly changed, "But I don't want to go." Chapter 38. The air suddenly became stagnant and eerily quiet, even the spacecraft's engines seemed to be holding their breath. Secretary Liu's smile was forced and awkward. No, Secretary Liu's face was gaunt and had almost no flesh on it. He was only smiling superficially. Secretary Liu said, "You are such a joke, how can you just not go back?" In short, Secretary Liu was really a little overwhelmed, but he was not that angry. What's there to be angry about? There are many more abstract people these days than Yi Sui. The expression on his face was just due to the nature of his job. When he came here, someone greeted him. Besides, Secretary Liu might have approved of Yi Sui's refusal. After all, if he goes to the Senate now, it will obviously be a dangerous place. Although he won't be eaten, he will have to be skinned alive. It's a good thing to hide away and stay out of the spotlight. However, what Secretary Liu didn't know was that in front of Yi Suxineo, it was obvious whether he was angry or not. And at this moment, in the universe within the First Order, there is the Xiwei star field, the Xiwei galaxy, the Xiwei star, the Pantheon, and the Senate. In the Parliament Hall of Yadian Hall, many committees on education and assessment of human beings, as well as the Committee on Encouraging Human Reproduction, jointly held a meeting to study and exchange ideas on the thoughts and cognitive abilities of the second chairman Yi Sui. After all, the Human Birth Encouragement Committee also needs to examine Yi Sui's appearance, personality, and willingness to have children before they can match him up. Oh, having children is now the biggest problem in the interstellar age and human society. It's such a headache. This is a learning and exchange meeting, not a resolution, and nothing can be passed that can be used for actual legislation, administration, and justice. Therefore, there is no need for full public disclosure, nor is there any need to inform stakeholders. However, holding this meeting does not mean that we need to deliberately suppress Yi Sui. Suppression education and frustration education have been extinct in the interstellar world for thousands of years. As for Secretary Liu's attempt to show Yi Sui his power, it was naturally a show effect that the committees were happy to see. But it is definitely not something that Secretary Liu would do in this bunch of idle departments at the risk of offending his future colleagues. Behind the scenes, there are two major factions confronting each other, one is the hardliners and the other is the conciliatory faction. It also forced Lu Mi to become their vanguard to test Yi Sui's political attitude. For example, Yi Sui's refusal here, among the strong faction, those who don't like the Senate and some who like to go their own way, seems to be a manifestation of being tough, decisive, opinionated, and having a sound self-awareness. Some people, such as conservatives, supporters of the Senate system and more experienced people, believe that he disregards rules, acts arbitrarily, lacks tactfulness in thinking and is easily emotional. Ancestor worship is politically correct in the Daxia Alliance, there is no way to criticize it, and we have to praise it. Yi Sui was unwilling to continue acting with him, so he said, "Secretary Liu, I just woke up and haven't gone to the ancestral star to worship my ancestors yet. I want to go back to the ancestral star first." Secretary Liu was very sensitive to something and quietly stepped forward to ask, "Did someone tell you something?" Yi Sui wanted to dodge, but his mind sensed that Lu Mi's thoughts were changing, so he didn't dodge in the end. This made Yi Sui sigh, there really is a problem. Yi Sui had no choice but to shake his head and said, "This is my own idea, and I think I need to research the alliance now so that I can better fulfill my responsibilities." He added, "After all, a great man on Zuxing once said that without research, there is no right to speak." As soon as these words came out, everyone in the Senate opened the AI and began to search. Of course, there are also people who don't need to be checked, most of them put on an I know look. In an era when humans are accustomed to asking AI questions, a large amount of knowledge only passes through the surface layer without being deeply memorized. After all, the interstellar space is so vast that you may not be able to remember even one star field with just your brain. After finding out, everyone couldn't help but sigh at the wisdom of the ancients, and discussed that Yi Sui's performance here was to adhere to the methodology of the ancients' wisdom. It is a style of work that advocates science, has correct cognition, and is pragmatic. He was praised by the conservatives and retrogressors who had just criticized him. Secretary Liu had accepted this responsibility after all. Although he was not very happy to get involved, he had no choice because someone asked him to do something. Secretary Liu continued to persuade him, "Mr. Yi Sui, we can first report to the Senate, and then travel to the brilliant stars and the universe of the Great Xia Alliance." Yi Sui felt that Lu Mi had a different kind of expectation in his mind. Instead of being angry at being rejected by him, he was looking forward to his rejection. He didn't even get angry during the whole process, and he didn't know how he could get angry. It seemed that all this was tiring work in his eyes. Therefore, Yi Sui answered according to the answer, "Originally, Zuxing is closer. If we want to go to the Senate, we have to go to the Xiwei galaxy, which is in the first frontier universe. I think it's better not to do this kind of thing that wastes time and efficiency." Well, not bad, you have your own ideas and cognition, and efficiency is paramount. Now the alliance has too much red tape, and it is full of formalism. The decision-making and administrative efficiency are low. There should be a major reform. Those who value efficiency above all else saw other factions standing up to gain fame, and they themselves were unwilling to give in, so they finally got their chance. Just stand up, turn on all microphones, and express your political opinions loudly. An opinion leader must let everyone know his opinions, so that he can have support. No matter how weird your opinions are, as long as the base is large enough and you can spread them, someone will support you. Yisui and Secretary Lu had a few words with each other. I found that the other party had no ill intentions and seemed to be acting on orders. And that kind of indifference represents Secretary Lu, who actually doesn't care about what those people's wishful thinking is. He is just a worker with no other choice. Yisui really didn't want to make things difficult for the worker, and he really didn't want to continue dragging this issue along with him. Yisui made a harsh statement. Yisui said angrily, "You can either follow me to the ancestral star, wait for me to pay respect to the ancestors and investigate the current situation of the alliance, and then we can talk about the Senate." "Let's talk." Yisui changed and pressed his body forward, which seemed to be more oppressive. "Use your heart and brain to raise the fear of the people nearby, especially Secretary Lu, to the highest level. Then just pretend to be very angry and shout out something. Either I fire you now, or you go back to the Senate on your own. Whether you hold a meeting or make a resolution, or use some other method, if you can force me to go back, then you can come back." It was deafening. The sound was so loud that it stopped the clouds from moving. Everyone else in the starport was extremely afraid of Yisui. Yisui was very good at stirring up their fear, which not only did not consume much of Yisui's energy, but instead helped to amplify Secretary Liu's fear. Secretary Liu was really stunned for a moment, and his fear of Yisui also filled his mind. Secretary Liu really took 2 steps back involuntarily. Once these 2 steps back, Yisui's decision can no longer be stopped. Everyone present also knew that Yisui was more powerful than Secretary Liu. His words were more effective. This scene was also broadcast live by the Senate, but the Senate could not sense Yisui's thoughts or ideas. However, they saw fear in the eyes of Secretary Liu, who was experienced, capable, and known for his ability to remain calm even when faced with a mountain collapse. "Maybe." Someone who was close to Secretary Liu tried to explain, "We have different perspectives. Maybe it is indeed quite daunting in the eyes of the person involved." There was a sudden silence, but Yisui's name became famous. Different from Yisui's previous 2 reputations, he inexplicably came in 2nd place and was a victim of the M-Star incident. This time it is indeed a good name. After the competition between Yisui and Secretary Liu was decided, Yisui walked past Secretary Liu and went up to the bridge to enter the cabin. Bai Lingyan also hurriedly followed behind, and in her eyes there was only the strong man who kept moving forward and never looked back, the big winner, Yisui. Secretary Liu gritted his teeth and hesitated for a moment. Yisui and Bai Lingyan were already walking farther and farther away, so he jogged to catch up. This farce is finally over. Chapter 39. So Yisui boarded the bridge, which consisted of explosion-proof barriers and escalators. The people seeing him off were the activists dignitaries and some of Kakashiro's people Yisui had met or knew, and some people he didn't know. I believe no one would be stupid enough to ask, "Where did Isenmo go?" Yisui's attitude of not caring and not asking can already be considered as saintly. The general public was not informed in advance of Yisui's departure. But they will definitely know about such a big commotion. How could anyone be absent from such an important team-building activity for the people of the Daxia Alliance? Yisui doesn't like doing this, he thinks he is not a person who likes to show off. And the families of the low-level soldiers of the self-defense fleet who actually sacrificed their lives in the starry sky, should they be grateful to Yisui? The man, father, or son in their family really died under that starry sky. Yisui did grant them citizenship, and Yisui added a 0 to the end of the pension. Yisui also brings them many invisible benefits and privileges. But if you give them a chance to choose, and exchange these rewards with their husbands, fathers, or sons, would they be willing to do so? All right. The answer is, if you give them another 10,000 chances, their husbands, fathers, or sons will definitely choose to change. Because, this is civilization. Civilization is a process of constant interaction, entanglement, and internal consumption between emotion, rationality, sacrifice and selfishness, but it will definitely move towards the side that reaps the greatest benefits in the end. As Zuxing philosophy says, development is a spiral rise and zigzag advance. Yisui thought a lot while standing on the escalator. The greatest magic weapon for mankind to defeat the stars is thinking. Endless thinking. Boundless thinking. Thinking, look, seeing those dignitaries gathered together, bowing deeply to Yisui who had already boarded the bridge, waving goodbye. Yisui could see them, but the bridge was soundproofed so he couldn't hear them. Yisui suddenly didn't want to leave like this, so he ordered the A Euro girl Yimeng to connect to the M-Star radio. Then I would think of the day before yesterday when I declared victory. People of AM. The voice echoed throughout the entire M planet. The people outside seemed a little tired, but they were asked to raise the flag for team building. They heard the sound. The alliance bears witness to your loyalty and fearlessness. Yisui wanted to talk about humans, but AI girl Yimeng kept using text prompts to ask Yisui not to mention humans in public. Because the Daxia Alliance is equal to humans, but humans are not equal to the Daxia Alliance. Because the Alliance has committed too many sins, humans are afraid that one day they will be dragged to death by the Alliance. One word of testimony, their sacrifice is worth it. My promise will never change. I will remember all of this. Remember this sentence, and thousands of families will no longer have complaints. After Secretary Liu made his choice, he turned off the live broadcast. But it is human nature to love gossip, and how could they miss such a wonderful reality show? The purpose of using AI for monitoring is to see what happened in the end. And there are more people watching. The Senate has no serious business to attend to when it gathers recently, and there are too many people who are just sitting around enjoying life all day. The A girl Yi Meng told Yi Sui about the whole operation. Yi Sui also knew why Secretary Lu was so strange and started with 2 shows of power. People have seen Yi Sui's innate ability to incite the lower classes. Some people were really shocked. After Yi Sui finished speaking, he stood there, took a deep breath, sorted out his emotions, and closed his eyes to rest. This clip was analyzed by the Senate as showing that Yi Sui still has a sentimental side. Just as Yi Sui turned around to leave, he suddenly looked back. Suddenly, all the colors in the world were taken away, leaving only black and white. Colors are eliminated. Sounds are blocked. The cheering crowd, the brightly colored clothes, the brilliant cross petals, all the colors that caught Yi Sui's sight. As they leaped and danced, as he sang. Colors are like water and gas, they are splashed, shaken off, evaporated, and disappear without a trace. And they knew nothing, as if nothing had happened. But this change of scene appeared in Yi Sui's eyes. The world lost its color, it was crazy and upside down, making people feel dazed. It's like your soul is leaving your body, and you are looking at the chaotic scene from a god's perspective. In the black and white crowd, in the middle of the singing and dancing crowd, there seemed to be a girl, but no one really approached her. Her delicate face and lifeless eyes were separated, intertwined, and shrouded by black and white, and it was impossible to see what was emerging in her pupils. What makes people notice her instantly is her beautiful, fluffy, flying pink hair. It is the most beautiful, most eye-catching, unique, and only remaining color in a world filled with black and white, that touch of temptation, charm, and ultimate purity of pink. She was wearing an exquisite gothic lace knee-length skirt, pure white stockings and black leather shoes, but it seemed that this outfit was carefully dressed for the scene. Where are her dazed pupils and dull eyes looking? What are they looking at? On the other side, Yi Sui on the bridge has a pair of captivating golden eyes that can pierce through everything in your heart, as if they can disintegrate you in an instant. Those are truly the eyes of God. This eye contact only happened for a moment. After a moment, the world returned to calm, colors returned to normal, and everyone seemed as if nothing had happened. The gothic girl with the ultimate, beautiful, unforgettable long pink hair has also disappeared. When Yi Sui came to his senses, his first reaction was that he had been attacked. He broke out in a cold sweat as he recalled that pair of golden eyes. Vividly in my mind. Suddenly, AI girl Yi Meng gave a reminder sound. Yi Sui clicked on it and saw that it was a social software developed by the internal channels of Daxia Alliance. The purpose is naturally to increase the fertility rate. Everyone registers and binds one with the identity verification. You cannot use it or block it, but everyone has it. Then Yi Sui received a friend request. This friend request comes from Ariel. The legendary Princess Ariel. What caught Yi Sui's attention the most was her long pink hair on her social media profile picture. She simply sent a message, "Hello, Uncle Yi Sui, this is our little secret." Oh, a copyright _ a copyright, oh. At the Senate, the live broadcast was urgently cut off at that moment. Special situation. Live broadcast interrupted. A group of people hurriedly walked to the stage. The man in the lead was wearing a white medical coat. He was Lin Changxiu, a member of the Genetic Research Organization Committee. Lin Changxiu walked up to the stage with his hands in the pockets of his white coat, and followed the noisy crowd and said, "Everyone, regarding the special envoy's matter, the broadcast has been urgently cut off. We have already written a written report and submitted it to the top secret file for the reason. Everyone can wait for the new chief to be elected, and then the new chief will decrypt it. Before that, Tushita Palace does not want you to pursue it too much." Everyone was very angry when they heard the top secret file instead of explaining it in public. But then, Lin Changxiu brought up the name of Tushita Palace, which made everyone suppress their anger but not explode on the spot. What is Tushita Palace? Tushita Palace is the scientific and cultural center of the Daxia Alliance. It is a gathering place for scientists. Human beings have completely become a race that advocates and respects science. Although ordinary people who are silent do not have much scientific research ability, they are also firm supporters of scientific development. Yi Meng? Are you there? Yi Sui called the a girl Yi Meng. Yes, brother. I know you care a lot about what happened just now, but it's okay. AI girl Yi Meng answered immediately, and she obviously knew what happened just now. What happened just now? Yi Sui asked. AI girl Yi Meng's tone seemed to be hesitant. Excuse me, I can't answer your question, brother. Do you know what to do when the authority of two humans conflicts? Yi Sui didn't say anything, waiting for the a girl Yi Meng to explain herself. If there are two individuals, then it will be based on the number of permissions they have. Brother, you have the most permissions in the human alliance. If there is a conflict of authority between an individual and a group, even if the individual's authority is higher, the simple majority rule will prevail. Yi Sui understood what she meant in an instant. You mean, this is a collective resolution, and the entire resolution covers my authority. That's right, brother. AI girl Yi Meng showed a happy expression and praised Yi Sui. What if it's between two groups? Compare who has more people. Yi Sui continued to ask the answer that the a girl hadn't finished. AI girl Yi Meng was silent for a moment, then replied, "Joint meeting. Make a new decision." Chapter 40. Can you tell me about Ariel? Yisui asked, the Princess Ariel everyone is talking about. The A girl Yimeng returned to her normal communication. Ariel was born in the Temple of the Gods in 1206. She was smart, cute, lively, and cheerful since she was a child, and was loved by many humans. Ariel will become an adult on April 13th of this year, which is less than a month. Ariel's parents were originally scientific researchers at Tushita Palace. He has a brother who is currently serving in Nantianmen. At the age of 12, he completed basic education ahead of schedule with extremely high IQ and excellent grades. Afterwards, Ariel chose the future relationship between humans and the stars as the direction of his advanced education. During this period, Ariel showed his kind and benevolent nature, as well as his lenient political inclination towards aliens. Of course, it is controversial because of its propositions, but it also has a group of supporters. And Ariel is also growing up, showing his strong charm and affinity. She has dispelled most of the criticisms against her, and even if there are any, they are limited to her political views against Ariel. Ariel has become the most beloved girl among mankind today, and a shining pearl of the Great Xia Alliance. She is known as the Pearl of the Empire, and is therefore called Princess Ariel by everyone except humans. Therefore, when she was 15 years old, the Queen of the Elf tribe personally crowned her as the honorary princess of the elves. After that, Ariel was crowned an honorary princess by more than a dozen large-scale civilized races. Even the demons who were hostile to the Great Xia Alliance announced that they admired Ariel's character, and the Void crowned her a princess. After hearing AI girl Yimeng's speech, Yisui felt that Ariel was a bit similar to the White Left. The feeling Yisui has had since his time traveling through time is that humans are very strong against the alien races that rule the lower classes. In such a cultural environment, there is a Virgin Mary in her fans? This made Yisui unable to understand Ariel's position. But her stunning debut just now. Her ability that made the world pale in comparison. Lita Euro trademark S not talk about her appearance for now. In the interstellar world, medical beauty technology can make people look exactly like you. But it was those emotionless, indifferent, cold eyes. Yisui feels that she is definitely not the kind of naive and innocent girl with the potential to be a saint. This information is just like what is written in an encyclopedia. Its credibility depends on whether the person who edited it passed the Chinese language test in primary school. Oh, now, it's called human basic education. Yisui continued to ask, is that all? Is there any information from the human race? I'm sorry. Brother, this information is excerpted from the human community's social media. Yisui was shocked. He really was trying to fool me with his own story. The Human Union and the Senate are collecting information about Ariel. Because she is still a minor and is in a confidentiality period, I have no right to disclose it. Yisui paused for a moment, then changed his mind and thought it was very reasonable. The minor protection law has been passed down from generation to generation, and the information is hidden. All right. Yisui put away his complaining heart. So he continued to ask AI girl Yimeng, do you want to give a reason for what happened just now? AI girl Yimeng said, brother, you can't hide your special abilities. Yisui also looked like he didn't care at all, I didn't mean to hide it. AI girl Yimeng nodded and continued, brother. Humans don't have racial talents. Hearing this, Yisui frowned, and suddenly remembered the time when the AI girl counted Yisui's crimes. I mentioned that I have an unknown ability. Then Yisui sat down and scratched his chin, as if he was caught doing something wrong. So you still want to expose me? Yisui asked. It's no use what I say now. Brother, you are already a member of the Daxia Alliance and a member of the human race. AI girl Yimeng shook her head and said. Yisui felt that AI girl Yimeng had no intention of killing him, but he still asked, what about them? Everyone has their own secrets. This is a matter between you, brother, and humanity itself. AI girl Yimeng said something ambiguous. But in fact, it is easy to hear that AI girl Yimeng is saying that other humans may have other ways to achieve this. They didn't Euro trademark dwell on this too much. After a while, they arrived inside the Yinghuo special battleship. When Yisui walked down the bridge, what he saw was a huge crowd of people, more than 10,000 soldiers, standing in rows and rows in front of him. They held their chests high and were in good spirits. Seeing Yisui coming down, the row leading the way, which was composed of all the officers on the Yinghuo except the commanding captain, immediately stood at attention, saluted, and shouted in unison, hello, sir. Then seeing this scene, fire also burned fiercely in Yisui Euro trademark S blood. Yisui wanted to shout hello, comrades, but it felt a bit weird. So he habitually wanted to ask the AI Euro girl, and the AI Euro girl Yimeng projected a text box on Yisui's retina, just call me comrade. AI girl Yimeng predicted. So Yisui also responded, hello, comrades. Then the soldiers shouted, loyalty to the alliance. A red carpet leading directly to the high platform of the cabin, decorated with flowers and ribbons. Thousands of soldiers stood on both sides, and the scene was magnificent. Yisui walked forward alone. Wherever he went, the soldiers in front of him shouted loudly. The shouts rose and fell continuously. So Yisui walked up to the platform, turned back and waved to them. AI girl Yimeng predicted again and prepared for Yisui to go on the air. The alliance has witnessed your loyalty, and I have witnessed it too. Yisui responded with a firm, steady, and powerful voice. Bai Lingian and Secretary Lu stood on the left and right, neither stepping on the red carpet. They were a distance behind Yisui, and neither standing on the same line. Yisui stood on the high platform and looked around, and found that the interior of the Yinghuo ship was too huge. Even if there was a second-class battleship with more than 10,000 soldiers, they couldn't even cover 1/5 of the deck of the Yinghuo ship. Then Yisui got on the Ferris wheel, Bai Lingyan hurriedly jogged to catch up, and Secretary Lu also jogged along. Bai Lingyan sat next to Yisui very naturally and habitually, and Secretary Liu's sharp eyes stayed on Bai Lingyan as she got into the car. Then he smiled and acted normally. Yisui sat in the car and sighed, in this day and age, there are still cars driven by humans. Yisui had only seen this kind of manual driving on Z Mountain, when Bai Lingyan drove a hovercraft. Yisui ignored Secretary Lu, and Secretary Lu didn't make any noise, didn't ask any questions, didn't answer any questions, and didn't chase or leave. He just followed Yisui closely. Yisui arrived at the command room of the Yinghuo. Naturally, the chair could not be left there any longer, so he transformed it into a luxurious reception room compartment at the back. Yisui sat at the top, and there was another seat above him. Secretary Lu was sitting opposite Bai Lingyan at the bottom. Then behind him came Lu Fu, the deputy captain on duty and acting captain of the Yinghuo ship. Lu Fu originally did not dare to sit down. He was also born into a derivative family, but his prominence was not as great as that of the 10 surnames bestowed by God. However, Lu Fu worked hard and achieved good results. Lu Fu saluted and asked, "Sir, when will we set off?" Yisui calmly asked back, "Do you know where we are going?" Lu Fu nodded and said, "Escort His Highness to the Pantheon." Yisui smiled, then shook his head and said, "I have to go to Zuxing to worship my ancestors first." "Aren't you from the Yinghuo military base?" "It's just right, you can give us a ride." Although Lu Fu felt anxious, he didn't dare to show it. "Your Highness, this..." Lu Fu didn't know how to start for a moment, this is not in line with the rules of the Senate. Yisui stopped laughing and said, "Secretary Lu has to stay here to accompany me to Zuxing. What do you think he is doing? Do you think I shouldn't go to the ancestral star to worship my ancestors, or do you think you can change my decision?" Yisui showed his impatience, and Lu Fu didn't dare to reply. Secretary Lu may have a kind heart. Seeing this fellow surnamed like this, he said, "Go down, notify the fleet officers and soldiers to return to the Yinghuo military base. We have already told the Senate about this matter." Lu Fu now had a reason to leave, so he said goodbye and left. At this moment, Secretary Lu suddenly called Lu Fu, "Be careful, Mr. Yisui is still weak, take a stable and safe route." Secretary Lu immediately turned around and agreed. Yisui was just waiting for Secretary Lu to speak, and that would mean Aoying had succeeded. Yisui pretended to ask, "Secretary Lu, we didn't tell the Senate, aren't you lying to them?" Secretary Lu rolled his eyes and said, "I don't like playing with people who like to act. Besides, if the Senate disagrees, they will naturally come to us for negotiation. If we reach an agreement, it counts as a negotiation." Yisui laughed loudly, stretched out his hand and said, "Yisui, what is your name?" "Lu Yida, please take care of me." Secretary Lu Yida stretched out his hand to show his approval of Yisui. "This name, this face. I'm not superstitious, but why don't we change the secretary every few months?" Chapter 41. Why such a name? Yisui asked. Secretary Lu was confused. What happened to his name? Yisui explained, "Sima Yi, courtesy name Zongda. The one who swears by the Luoshui River." Secretary Lu made it clear. Then Secretary Lu smiled and said, "I learned about this person in the credit section of my basic education. He is a famous counterexample, and he can be regarded as notorious for thousands of years." Yisui laughed along. This sense of cultural familiarity, blood affinity, and civilizational belonging. The relationship between Yisui and Lu Mi is rapidly getting closer, and Yisui's estrangement from the Senate has also been eased. Bai Lingyan was beside her, and she was stunned for a moment. She suddenly felt the biggest gap between herself and Yisui, the most serious estrangement. Ida Euro trademark S not the difference in looks, intelligence, or physiology, Ida Euro trademark S about a Euro a culture a Euro. I don't a Euro trademark T know who Sima Yi is. I don't a Euro trademark T even know what a Euro swearing on Luoshui a Euro means. But it doesn't a Euro trademark T matter, you can learn it yourself, but how many years will it take you to make up for that innate sense of cultural influence? Even if he could make it up, there must be another girl around Yisui. Just when Bai Lingyan was feeling a little internally conflicted, Yisui was still chatting happily with Secretary Lu. Secretary Lu felt that she was having a great time chatting. Secretary Lu himself joked, "My parents named me Luda at that time. This name was so common at that time. So after I went to school, I learned how to read by myself, and when I saw the character Xiang's Honggai, I thought it looked good, so I had to give it to myself. Add the name. Then when you learn later, you will start to regret it." Tell me, he even made a bitter face. You don't a Euro trademark T know that his already withered face is so ugly that a Euro trademark S incomprehensible. Yisui also laughed loudly, his acting skills improved by leaps and bounds, and he burst into tears from laughing. You never thought about changing your name later. The reason why Lu Mi felt happy chatting was naturally because of Yisui's mind, which increased his happiness and desire for expression. Secretary Lu stopped laughing, and then wanted to speak seriously, "Of course, I was about to cry and wanted to change my name, but when I passed a mirror, I decided not to change it." Why? Yisui felt some changes in the atmosphere and his mood. Because I look like that, because I was like, if I changed this name, I would still have a different name. Yisui felt the tenacity in Lu Mi's words and a strong emotion coming over him. In the Daxia Alliance, the only one who can treat yourself as a human being is yourself. Secretary Lu suddenly said something out of nowhere, if you don't want the alliance system to homogenize you, you have to find your own personality and be yourself. Ah! Yisui suddenly expressed surprise. Lu Mi has a strong desire to express himself. He said, my ugly appearance at that time has been revealed. The dozen or so children who were at the same time as me have all received basic education on courtesy and respect. Although no one laughs, their eyes are always focused on me. This tells me that I am special. Yisui is still silent. Lu Mi, who has always been steady and has no mood swings, is experiencing extremely serious mood swings at this moment. Do you know what special means? Secretary Lu suddenly asked, and his mood gradually became calmer. Yisui shook his head. Have you read the history of the Great Xia Alliance? Secretary Lu continued to ask. Yisui continued to shake his head, I haven't had time to read it yet. Secretary Liu's eyes turned cold and he asked, including today, you have been here for 3 days. Haven't you started reading yet? Yisui was silent. He had become a little lazy since he got out of the crisis. Mr. Yisui, if you want to understand a race, you must understand its history. It is because you understand the history of the Kaka and Ichiku tribes that you were able to recognize at the critical moment that their true nature was to change their lives rather than rebel, and that you were able to win them over with your big promises. Then Secretary Lu was stunned for a moment, and then changed his angle. To show one's uniqueness is to let others pay attention to you and let you recognize yourself. I can definitely make myself very handsome. But I never do that, because I don't need good looks to do anything. But if I can accept my narrow appearance, people will think that it is my characteristic and they may think I am very capable. Everyone will support me, believe in me, and choose me. Secretary Lu said earnestly. Yisui finally understood, isn't this just the same trick of creating a persona to win votes? Secretary Lu seemed to sense Yisui's thoughts and quickly refuted them. It's not that I want support, it's just for votes. Secretary Lu suddenly had something stuck in his throat and didn't say it out loud. Then he said ouch and was about to leave. Yisui hurriedly stood up and grabbed him, Secretary Lu, where are you going? Secretary Lu slapped his forehead and said, I'll find something for you, something that can only be delivered by human hands. Oh. Yisui let go of the hand that was holding him. Secretary Lu was about to leave, but suddenly stopped and said, I shouldn't have given it to you now. I can only say that your ability is really effective. They are really nurturing a tiger to harm you by letting you go to the Senate. Yisui was stunned and asked, you know everything. Secretary Lu narrowed his eyes and became even more frightening, can I be hit twice with one move? Pay attention. Don't use this method on your fellow countrymen in the future. This is a basic part of education on courtesy and respect. Then Secretary Lu left. After a while, the A girl was reminded by Yimeng that Yisui had received a friend request. Upon closer inspection, it turned out to be Secretary Lu. After adding him, I received a message from him, it was nothing, but your ability was so amazing that I lost my composure and found an excuse to leave. No. Yisui's pupils were shocked. Is this right? Suddenly, Yisui suddenly wanted to ask, Yimeng? Can I call you that? Yes, brother. AI girl Yimeng asked curiously, what's wrong with you? Yisui looked toward the universe and said, I suddenly seem to understand what he meant. I remembered a story I once read about a new soldier named Su Santuo who was assigned to be a sentry on a vast prairie. Su Santuo's classmates told him that he had to find a hobby for himself, otherwise he would go crazy. Su Santuo didn't understand at the time that it was a grassland where trees looked like people after a long time. Yisui looked at the large display screen in the command hall and the bright starry sky. Su Santuo's grassland might look similar to the starry sky. I feel lonely and out of place here, and even enjoy the leisure here. If you want to understand what humans will be like 10,000 years from now, you really have to read their history. Knowing what happened to them in the past 10,000 years. Chapter 42. The Mars ship set out from the planet Am, but did not dare to make a jump alone, so it had to go to a nearby space jump transfer station. To ensure that Yisui's body is not affected in any way, full speed and full engine, leaving a gorgeous rainbow line in the starry sky, all the way to the starry sky therefore, Yisui really wanted to get a copy of the 10,000 year history of human interstellar activities. Before reading, Yisui felt that he needed to comfort Bai Ling Ian first. This little girl was the first person she met after traveling through time. Although she wanted to open her heart to Yisui at first. At this moment, there were only himself and Bai Ling Ian in the room. Yisui still didn't like the life of being surrounded by people. Ling Ian. Yisui called out to Bai Ling Ian. Bai Ling Ian immediately stood up, agreed, and asked what was going on. Sir, what's wrong? Yisui pulled her over, and Bai Ling Ian's cheeks flushed. There was no resistance, just a little shyness and I just went with the flow. I remember it correctly. Your home is in Xiwuxing. Yisui chatted with her about family matters. Yes. Bai Ling Ian's demeanor finally recovered, I was born in the imperial capital of Xiwei Star. Oh. That's a family, no, it should be called the Bai family now. Yisui pretended to remember it, and then made a little joke. Bai Ling Ian smiled, and the atmosphere gradually became harmonious. By the way, why did you end up in Z Mountain? Yisui asked. Bai Ling Ian talked about her unfortunate childhood, and finally had an idea, it was fate that arranged for me to meet you, young master. Yi Sui, who was a virgin in his previous life, was suddenly attracted by Bai Ling-Yian's straight ball. The ears are a little red. Why is Yi Sui so close to Bai Ling-Yian? Because Bai Ling-Yian is the one Yi Sui awakened his heart and brain. Whether observing Bai Ling-Yian's heart intentionally or accidentally, I didn't feel the slightest trace of malice. There was no thought of using Yi Sui or clinging to him. On the contrary, there are many messy ideas that are not suitable for children. Ever since Yi Sui used his heart and brain to observe a person, he has become more and more dependent on it. Whether you open your mind or not is just like whether you open your mind or not when playing a game. So some people have some malicious thoughts and ideas that Yi Sui doesn't like, although it won't make Yi Sui chop him off directly. At that time, I still had to hold an attitude of contempt and disgust. To the extent that Yi Sui does not like to be served by real maids, but prefers robots. On the planet of AMU, I only come into contact with a limited number of people with high moral standards. The little lord, the old gentleman and Kakashiro. Moreover, Yi Sui always felt that he was missing something. Yi Sui did not stay in the command room all the time. He mainly walked around the command room to satisfy his curiosity. Yi Sui left. The gravity, air pressure, and gas flow inside the warship were all adjusted very well, and he did not feel any discomfort throughout the whole process. Then Yi Sui took Bai Ling-Yian back to the room prepared for him to rest. After Yi Sui had been reading history in the room for about an hour or two, someone knocked on the door. Report. Lu Fu came in to report at this moment. We have arrived at the Sheila 1/4 space transfer station and can make space jumps at any time. Yi Sui said that he knew it, and he could see the hesitation in his heart without even using his brain. But once Yi Sui has made up his mind, he will never change it so easily. So Yi Sui nodded and said, "That's it. Then we will go to Zuxing, and you can arrange the journey." Lu Fu was helpless, and he did not dare to disobey. The Senate did not give him an order to bring Yi Sui back no matter what. Asking them to escort Yi Sui to the Senate was just a general administrative order from the Senate. According to Yi Sui's authority, he has the right to refuse such an order. Yi Sui saw that Lu Fu did not have much resistance, and he also knew that there would probably not be any more accidents. Lu Fu thought of something else, so he reported, "The Yinghuo needs to repair the space jump protection membrane, and also add airtight measures and anti-space bending barriers to the warship. It may take some time, Your Highness, please wait for a moment. Is space travel so troublesome for you?" Yi Sui asked with a frown. "Your Highness, we have undergone genetic enhancement and adaptation training, and our resistance is strong, but Your Highness has just recovered, and we cannot bear the blame." Yi Sui nodded to show that he understood. Suddenly, I felt like getting off the ship and taking a look. Lu Fu naturally did not dare to refuse, although he strongly disagreed with Yi Sui's idea of a euro getting off the ship. After all, although the Sheila space transfer station is located in the heart of the Alliance, there are definitely no terrorists. However, public security is not necessarily very good. Some places are not managed, and some places cannot be managed. Sheila is one of the important space transfer stations between Zuxing and Xiwuxing, and countless dignitaries travel back and forth. In the era of interstellar exploration, 99% of those who stayed in the hinterland were playboys. His Highness Yi Sui did not bring any followers with him, so he might be bumped into by someone who is either blind or passively blind. The escort mission turned into the extermination of the entire family, and Lu Fu felt really wronged. They could only draw officers from the army to serve as attendants, and the Mars guards had also escorted other princes and princesses many times. Normally, Lu Fu isn't that worried. But Yi Sui is obviously different from others. But Lu Fu didn't have the courage to refuse, so he had to agree and said he would prepare something for Yi Sui. Yi Sui didn't have any idea of a euro wearing the Beilongaihu suit. He was purely curious and wanted to take Bai Ling-Yian out for some fresh air. Secretary Lu returned to the room and quickly found a box of medicine. After taking it, his mood stabilized. Yi Sui didn't notice, but the hot woman kept following him. After all, although she was treated coldly by Yi Sui, she was Secretary Liu's person after all, and no one else dared to offend Secretary Lu. Secretary Lu gave her a cold look, not hiding his disgust. Secretary Lu rebuked him, "I used to think you were just stupid, and I kept you around because you were stupid and loyal. Now I realize that you are both stupid and evil." Upon hearing this, the hot-tempered woman collapsed to the ground in fright. When Secretary Lu arranged for her to go, he had already reminded her to know herself. Bai Ling-Yian got out of the car and stopped her. In fact, she should have just gone back obediently. The slap she was about to give could only be described as bad. If Lu Mi didn't stop him in the end and he really hit Bai Ling-Yian in the face, wouldn't she have walked into Yi Sui's trap? How should Yi Sui deal with her? Should Secretary Lu protect her? When you get to Sheila 1/4, you can sneak off the ship and return to Xiwuxing. You don't have to tell them that I chased you away. Secretary Lu turned his back and said something. Secretary Lu sighed in his heart that he was too kind after all. Senate, Wen Yun Pavilion Council Hall. There weren't many people in the room, and it seemed like they were discussing something important. That person doesn't want to come back. Secretary Lu said he noticed it and doesn't want to come back and wade into the muddy waters. The young man who first rebuked former Chief Yuan Piazi spoke. Brother Gu, but I also saw the live broadcast. We can't treat Yi Sui as an ordinary silent citizen. He has a strong sense of self-awareness. Therefore, we should forcefully convene a meeting of moderate size to force. Did he pull it back? Kuang Jingtong, a member of the Senate's new construction committee's application organizing committee, looks even younger than the young man known as Brother Gu. He is responsible for the application and organization of committees in the Senate. If you want to set up a committee in the Senate, you need to report to him and wait for them to go through the process for you. This young man named Gu is actually not young anymore. He is a member of the Military Intelligence Committee and his name is Guru Okan. He concurrently serves as the director of the Central Bureau of Investigation and single-handedly established the military intelligence and espionage system framework after the 12th Interstellar Crusade. He has everything including ability, status, fame, and prestige. He is also the backbone of the hardliners. Since that person doesn't want to come, then don't come for the time being. Guru Okan stated. Huang Jingtong disagrees and wants to ask why. Guru Okan explained, it's not going to happen on the front line for a while, and although we have a big advantage because we acted hastily, the logistical pressure is also not small. Don't push the Sukshuan clan too far. They are already trapped in a jar anyway. At this time, we should do more and talk less. Pretend to be frustrated by Yisui and give the aliens some false hope. These will also reduce the pressure on the front line. Guru Okan's statement was very convincing, and others thought it was a good thing when they heard it. Then someone else added, Brother Gu is indeed a shrewd man, but just in case, we should make a second-hand preparation, mobilize everyone's connections, find a centrist or a conciliatory person, and give Yisui a temporary position in Zuxing, preferably ending before Ariel trademark's birthday. This way, we have 3 birds at once. First, it gives Yisui a reasonable explanation for going to Zuxing, and it can also control Yisui's movements. Second, after the temporary post is over, Yisui will be allowed to return to the Senate in the name of reporting on his work. Third, we can use Yisui's return to suppress Ariel's arrogance during his coming-of-age ceremony. An old man with a kind face raised his hand to stop them when he heard the third point. What are you talking about? Ariel is such a good child, there's no need to ruin her coming-of-age ceremony. Guru Okan agreed and added, remember one thing, in the endless starry sky, we are the only compatriots. Fighting is just a disagreement. The purpose is to protect humanity, not to hurt anyone. Fight without breaking, be harmonious but different. Chapter 43. The Sheila 1/4 Space Transfer Station is not a simple large-scale space jump system, with an additional door and a platform for warships and spaceships to dock. The Sheila 1/4 Space Transfer Station has 13 ecological chains, 7 artificial ecological satellites, and 21 orbiting planets. It forms a huge starry sky ecosystem that integrates commerce, tourism, entertainment, transportation, production, and life. Moreover, based on the Sheila Space Transfer Station, a Sheila starport was expanded. The Yinghuo is now being coded at the Sheila starport, and the administrative director of the Sheila Space Transfer Station is personally on site to supervise the progress. Some other dandy young men who had ears were notified and hid far away. However, there are always some people who do not have ears, or who do not have ears due to lack of power. Yisui brought by Ling Yian and sent a message to Secretary Lu and asked. Secretary Lu said he had a meeting to attend about Yisui, and asked Yisui if he wanted to attend remotely. Yisui expressed no intention and refused to attend the meeting. Secretary Lu said that he would tell Yisui what happened after the meeting. Yisui was greatly shocked. How could this be a tip-off? Secretary Lu replied, as long as you apply for a parliamentary hall in the Senate, even if it is an invitation-only discussion or discussion meeting, there will definitely be archives, but you just can't find it for a while. When Yisui saw this scene, he suddenly remembered the secret communication he had with those 3 people and the former chief Yuan Piazi. So Yisui typed a line of words on social media, we had a private conversation at that time, can it also be checked? Then a text box appeared on Yisui's retina, right. Yisui was even more confused at this moment. Since everything was public, what would be the point even if the former chief Yuan Piazi begged him? If you don't tell others, they can find out? Even if it takes some time, there is no wall that is impenetrable. Once discovered and impeachment begins, according to human habit, the AI girl Yimeng will definitely be destroyed. In order to protect the AI girl, former chief Yuan Piazi voluntarily resigned, even at the risk of being hanged. In order to save the former chief Yuan Piazi, the 3 men approached Yisui for negotiation. But they refused to find a more private occasion, and instead left everything to the records of the Senate. This is something Yisui cannot understand. Yisui, Bai Lingyan, and dozens of others are very strong and have been transplanted with various racial talents. There are countless security personnel secretly, providing meticulous, cautious, and systematic protection. They were docking at a small starport, and the customs officers saw Yisui's attitude. After collecting the docking fee with their eyes closed, there was no questioning or search. They thought they were giving Yisui a hand, but Yisui secretly made a note in his heart, customs officials were derelict in their duties, lazy, and failed to collect taxes according to the law. He didn't even take a look, how did he know that everything was collected? This is really an injustice to Yisui. The officer who paid the money for the Yinghuo ship is from a derivative family born on the Zuxing star. Naturally, it was impossible and we dared not embezzle the funds allocated from above, and the money was definitely not less. Although the customs officers did not look up, they used artificial eyes to connect to the camera to assist AI recognition and let several people pass. It is clear how much money should be charged. And now most of the currencies are digital, so you just need to identify your online account. But this was a business trip, so naturally it had to be paid with a public account, so he took out the card to pay. Yisui and Bai Lingyan walked around and looked around. After walking a few steps, Yisui discovered that other people were not walking using their feet. They are like the road under your feet that moves by itself. You just need to stand still and the road will move naturally. Yisui observed carefully and found that although the road seemed to be a hole, there were actually gaps everywhere. Moreover, the road surface is wavy and regular. Yisui found the leader of the bodyguards and asked, "What is the principle behind this?" Bai Lingyan also noticed these, but she didn't bring the mechanical backpack, and was no longer the almighty Bai Lingyan she used to be. The leading bodyguard was indeed chosen for his excellent facial features and mentality, and he looked very much like a human, with no obvious differences from a human. He answered tremblingly, "Your Highness." "Young master." He wanted to call him His Highness, but when he thought of Yisui's current white dragonfish suit, he was afraid of disturbing his interest. Just follow Bai Lingyan and call him young master. This is called the fish plate road. When people wear special shoes and step on it, the road beneath their feet will ripple like a fish swimming on the water. Oh. Yisui became interested when he heard that, and remembered a cartoon he had seen before, in which Nobita and Doraemon went to the future, where the roads were paved with glass balls and people could just slide on them. The head bodyguard saw Yisui was interested and tried to dissuade him, "Sir, this path is a bit useless. What I mean is, it looks very convenient, but it is actually very abstract." Yisui also felt it. First of all, you need to wear their special shoes. It would be fine if the shoes can be used for normal walking, but if they cannot be used for daily life, then you must carry 2 sets of shoes with you for normal life. Secondly, wearing this kind of shoes means you can only stand. Although you walk faster, you lose a lot of movements, which is inconvenient for work. Third, people who don't Euro trademark T need to wear these shoes to live and work have other more convenient means of transportation a Euro such as hovercrafts. After Yisui figured it out, he suddenly lost interest. There is actually only one row of commercial streets on the shore of the Star Harbor, and the upper level is a ceiling made of light screens. The head of the bodyguards got a hover car from somewhere. This car was much cooler than Bai Lingyan's. The overall shape was streamlined, and it looked more like the light instant car at that time. There was no one in the car, and Yisui and Bai Lingyan were sitting inside. The bodyguards have mechanical modifications similar to armor, but they are more like exoskeletons than prostheses. Then they flew around the car in a swaggering and open manner. Passers-by consciously tried to avoid Yisui, and the police did not dare to investigate at all. It seemed as if everyone was always paying attention to him, and Yisui had no intention of pretending to be a pig and eating the tiger. Yisui used his ability to read a wide range of texts to quickly understand the buttons on the control screen in the car. At one point, the car wall instantly becomes transparent. Of course, it is only transparent when viewed from the inside out. From the outside, it still looks like a very cool hover car. High-rise buildings suspended without bases, platforms floating in the sky, and various alien races. The shopping mall is flashing colors in whole or in part, and the large light screen outside is playing various advertisements. Moreover, Yisui found that the road he was on was like a bridge. The road in the distance can also split in the middle, and then a commercial building floats up from below, and the road closes up piece by piece. Like the waves of the sea. Moreover, there is a vast simulated sky with blue sky and white clouds above the residential and commercial areas. Naturally, the hometowns of many ethnic minorities are not blue skies and white clouds. The aesthetic standards at that time were set by humans. Humans think that blue sky and white clouds are beautiful, so blue sky and white clouds are naturally noble. Suddenly, the sky over the commercial and residential areas of Shielo turned into a sweet pink, and there were many large colorful bubbles. The fixed or floating shopping malls also turned into sweets, cakes and dolls, and the advertisement instantly turned into a female singer with the characteristics of a space diva. She held a retro microphone and made playful movements, with small blue robots with mechanical ears floating on both sides of her. There is also a magical dancing bear behind him, the background is also a pink sky, and there are many donuts and cakes in the space. Who? She blew gently into the microphone. Her voice was full of magic, and her white high boots stepped rhythmically on the floor. Then sing a song. This atmosphere, this scene, this effect, is really awesome. Then the space singer cast a sweet wink and said in a lovely voice, "Hello everyone. I'm Vilya. My space opera tour, Shielo 1/4 station, starts tonight. Welcome everyone. Thank you for your support. Love you all." There is a reason why it is said to be sweet. At that moment, Shielo was really releasing a gaseous substance that can give people a sweet taste. Space Diva Vilya had no plans to hold the event in Shielo 1/4, she was invited to hold it on Zuxing. But in order to please Yisui, the powerful people in Shielo paid a special visit to him, hoping to add a space opera. In particular, a gorgeous preview performance was designed. Chapter 44. The whole poem was filled with cheers, and Yisui could tell from this that Wei Lai was a famous singer. It's been 10,000 years, and we still need to chase stars in the interstellar era? Yes, after all, there is demand, and it cannot be avoided. As for what you need, don't worry about it. Suddenly, several bodyguards around him accelerated to the front of the car, and Yisui saw that the road in front was about to crack, so he also stopped. Then it immediately became quiet. The building below was forcibly held down and not allowed to move any further. I thought it was just an ordinary case of using identity permissions. It should have been a peaceful and calm place, but suddenly, the shopping mall below was rear-ended by another shopping mall flying upwards from a lower level. In a Class 3 area where traffic is fully controlled by AI and operating normally, this kind of thing is impossible. This immediately attracted a large number of soldiers from the Mars army to patrol down, and the bodyguard leader immediately gave orders. Come back immediately. Safety first, don't leave the team. Don't disperse. The soldiers who had just flown out and wanted to make merit retreated in formation. At this time, the head bodyguard was panicking. Keep the car moving forward, get ready to fire, and activate the anti-vehicle weapon matrix. Even if the person in the car was not attacked, if his mood was disturbed, he would be in trouble. What happened? Almost everyone asked at this moment. AI girl Yimeng immediately said through the car audio, I have now unlocked the vehicle's traffic restrictions and orientation for you. Below you is the C214 commercial building that was supposed to pass through. It should have passed through this section of road 3 minutes ago according to its original route. However, due to the appearance of the famous space singer Vilya, a large number of fans flocked in within a short period of time, which delayed the time. So it was arranged to wait for a while, until we passed by, and then it would continue to rise. At this time, the D214 shopping mall on the next floor applied to merge with C214 in order to share this wave of traffic. This was a normal business practice, both parties reached an agreement, and AI approved it. But unexpectedly, at the critical moment, C214 refused to cooperate again. So AI arranged C214 to rise a little and let D214 wait in place. At this point, C214 agreed to merge with D214. Because of your identity and permissions, C214 has entered the sensitive operation range. So the AI refused, and the command room manually operated to move the D214 shopping mall upwards. At that time, D214 did not stop moving, nor did it start the process of merging the groups, and even collided with C214. This is very abstract. It was so abstract that even Xiaolu, the Minister of Public Security, wanted to slap the person in the control room to death himself. If the man in the control room wasn't his son, he would have had someone shoot him. Now he just hopes that this is all just an accident. The Yinghua reserve personnel are urgently assembled, all of them are dispatched. Yisui's vehicle successfully passed through this section of road, and nothing happened. Yisui's mind felt the nervousness of the bodyguards around him, but there was no hostility or malice. This seems to be an accident indeed. After this accident, the bodyguard leader asked Yisui whether he wanted to continue. Yisui was just about to go back when he suddenly felt a strange emotion at the edge of his mind. It is curiosity, disgust, and a kind of self-righteous wisdom of a wise old man looking at a foolish old man. As a man of age, I would never convict someone just because of a little emotion of his. However, in the entire sensitive area and sensitive time, the whole city was filled with mechas as huge as a shopping mall, and holding weapons that released destructive auras. How could there be a person who is so brave, without any fear or anxiety, but only with deep malice? Is there anyone in this world that he cares about? Yisui pointed in a direction, used his hearing aid to give orders to the soldiers, but ordinary soldiers could not hear Yisui's voice. He was shocked for a moment, and the head bodyguard immediately gave orders. Teams 4 and 5, head to the 4 o'clock direction, 13 kilometers away. Others, stand by, be alert, activate safety, and be ready at all times. The head bodyguard was screaming in his heart, didn't we come here to improve our relationship with the noble? How could this really happen? Suddenly, Yisui felt that the world had changed, and the feeling was very similar to the last time he met Ariel. The sky turned black in an instant. The fish-shaped road turned into a red curtain, rolling up and opening to both sides, revealing an endless abyss beneath the road. The hovercraft was exempted from traffic restrictions and could fly freely, but it was still falling towards the abyss as if it was sucked by a strong gravitational force. The abyss blocked Yisui's mind and brain from exploring, and the darkness blinded Yisui's perception. Yisui's mortal eyes could not see anything in the abyss, he could only feel the hovercraft falling madly. Where are the Yinghua army? Aren't they next to me? Yisui instinctively reached out to feel for Bai Lingyan beside him. He just sensed her fear and confusion in his mind. Until he touched Bai Lingyan's hand, lifted her hand and placed it against his forehead. The warm palms made Yisui feel some comfort. After calming down, Yisui's mind kept echoing in the abyss. He felt that the abyss was more like a well with a diameter of only about 20 meters. In addition, Yisui felt that what was blocking his mind and brain from exploring was actually more like a special kind of metal. Wait. Why is Bai Lingyan silent? Yisui thought in surprise. Yisui had a guess in his mind. Yisui used his ability to listen to everything and release the sound to the greatest extent possible. Bai Lingyan. Bai Lingyan. If you can hear me, hug me. Then Yisui's own body had tactile feedback. The sound seemed to break the darkness of the abyss, and the darkness shattered like a mirror. Yisui opened his eyes again, and a strong spotlight shone on Yisui's face. Yisui forced himself to open his eyes and looked around. He seemed to be standing on a huge platform with red curtains all around. Yisui saw the space singer Vilya, who had appeared in the full-screen advertisement before, now running away in panic, fear, and disheveled clothes. Following behind is a pig-like man, literally a pig. He is fat, short limbs, and looks like a fool. Wearing a suit that looks like a human, he ran greedily and madly, chasing Wei Lia. Yisui did not feel the fear in Wei Lia's emotions, although Zhu Ji's emotions were full of eroticism and desire. However, Yisui dared to draw the conclusion that Zhu Ji was more like a wild beast in heat than an alien. They ran to the center of the stage and the spotlight shone on them. The music started, the urgency of the piano music, the sadness of the violin. Organ, flute. Space singer Vilya finally saw Yisui in a palm-sized space. She thought of Yisui, she called Yisui her savior, she knelt down, leaned towards Yisui, her eyes were seductive, and she was gentle and tender. The music was floating, and the lights were focused on her fair skin and the collarbone exposed by her open chest. Vilya is wailing and wailing. I see you should pity me. Pig brother approached step by step, with a wanton smile on his face, lustful eyes and saliva falling on the stage, steam rising. At this moment, the music becomes high-pitched. The piano music becomes exciting, and the trumpet begins its loud journey. Everything is calling Yisui. Go. A hero saves a beauty. A romantic epic. If Yisui hadn't noticed her fear, he would have taken it as amusement instead. Maybe Yisui really believed it. But in a trance, Yisui found himself and Wei Lia facing each other, standing in the center of the stage. There are flower pots all around, and lilies on the flower pots are about to bloom, symbolizing purity. Behind it are props that symbolize the garden. Yisui was confused. What kind of ability was this? Seeing that he didn't cooperate, he could jump directly to the next game? At this moment, the music becomes melodious and gentle, and the air is filled with an ambiguous atmosphere. The space singer Vilya wore a rose-red dress with lace on the neckline. What attracted Yisui's attention the most was the low-cut white chest and the slender and attractive collarbone. Then, in an instant, Wei Lia went up. That's soft, moist, slightly warm. How to describe it? In an instant, the stars should turn upside down. Wei Lia is full of affection, like lovers who have been reunited after a long separation, or like a couple who have just fallen in love. Vilya's hands had climbed onto Yisui's back without her knowing when, and she gently stroked Yisui's back muscles. If Yisui hadn't opened his mind and felt her calm emotions, and the joy and curiosity in her heart about holding the toy. Maybe Yisui really has fallen for her. She pursed her red lips, her cheeks flushed, youthfulness, purity, desire and beauty all combined in her at once. The tip of her pink tongue gently juts out, she's tempting, seducing. She's going to A again. It happened so fast. How could our Sigma man Yisui be hit twice by the same trick? Yisui pushed the space singer Wei Lia away and quickly ran away. Then the stage collapsed. The singer was left alone on the stage that was about to collapse, with a look of panic on her face. Yisui felt a surge of compassion in his heart, as if urging him to save her. Then the mind and brain can easily get rid of this weird emotion. The stage collapsed. Seeing that Yisui had no reaction, Wei Lia restrained her facial expression and could only bow in dismay. The collapsed stage is like being turned upside down, and will be reassembled one by one. Only a girl with completely different clothes and temperament was left standing in the center of the stage, with the spotlight shining on her. Her face was still that of the space singer Vilya. But she doesn't look charming at all. Rather, a kind of unruly, frivolous, and rebellious spirit is condensed between her eyebrows. She pursed her red lips and sang in a soprano voice, "Dear guests, dear audience. Now I declare that the space opera, Sound. The End of Mankind officially opens." Chapter 45. Vilya jumped lightly and landed on the high platform behind her. "I am a traitor, Vilya." Her voice shook the space here. And in her place appeared the original Vilya in a red dress. However, Vilya stood on the body of the pig brother who chased space opera Vilya at the beginning. The pig was gutted and cut open, blood all over the floor. The blood stains her crystal clear blue crystal dancing shoes. Vilya spun, danced, and sang on the corpse's chest. Yisui's mind and brain could clearly tell that both of these Vilyas were real, but neither was complete. The stage is changing. The space is changing. The time is changing too. The bloodstains disappeared, the bodies disappeared, the lawns were covered again, the flowers bloomed again. Wei Lia also turned into a little girl. She sat on the swing and sang nursery rhymes happily. Insects fly, her parents were standing behind the little girl, smiling kindly and gently. I am human too, the Vilya on the podium finally spoke. Suddenly, with a shutter click, everything turned into a photo again, and the photo was framed in an exquisite frame. Then, there was a sound of breaking. There was a broken spot in the middle of the photo, and then cracks appeared on both sides like a spider web, and the parents were separated by the cracks. The photo frame also broke. The music starts, epic, magnificent and tragic music, the rhythm of drums. The little girl turned around on the stage. From one side to the other, she grew up little by little. She also sang about the strength of the alliance, the sacrifices of her ancestors, and her thoughts for her parents. At this moment, various foreigners appeared on both sides of the stage. They had ferocious expressions, they were waving weapons, and they were howling in chaos. Velia in the red dress was terrified. She looked around, took small steps back and forth, and was in a panic. Yisui felt a little bored when he saw the scene. Did she just want me to watch an opera? Yisui's mind was focused on Wei Lia on the stage, and he even felt fear, worry and panic because of the scene on the stage. It's just funny. Wei Lia on the high platform looked at Yisui and said, "Shouldn't you protect her now?" Yisui felt even more unreasonable. "Let's end this boring opera." "What do you want?" Wei Lia on the high platform had a look of disdain on her face and crossed her legs. "Mr. Yisui, I'm inviting you to watch an opera, please keep quiet." Yisui looked at her coldly, listening to everything and passing the sound to Bai Ling Ian. The touch sensation on Yisui's own body became more and more clear, and there were two soft and elastic things on his chest pressing against Yisui. It was Bai Ling Ian who was hugging me, so I never left the car. Therefore, Vilya's methods should be conscious and spiritual. The opera goes on. More and more people came onto the stage, and Velia in a red dress climbed up a conical spiral platform step by step. Below the stage were a dozen human warriors wearing armor and holding swords, fighting against those aggressive aliens. Then they fell one by one. Velia straightened her chest, stretched out her arms, and sang loudly. Sins will eventually be punished by reincarnation. One day of life and death will lead to the destruction of civilization for thousands of years. The alien soldiers crowded around the platform, they set up human ladders from all directions, trying their best to climb up. Soldiers from all races raised their swords and axes and chopped at the red-dressed Velia who was still singing like an idiot on the high platform. Noisy dust. My great ship fell, have you heard it? A legend about the rise of civilization. Whoever wants to cry, please don't do it on this last day. Sad music seems to cry with the singer. Being attacked by swords and axes, even Waylaya on the high platform felt pain and sadness. Velia was still dancing on the platform, wearing a blood-red dress, and she seemed to never stop. The blood flowed down the white calf, past the ankle, to the toes, and then dripped. The drops fell onto the stage, and the stage instantly changed color. The alien soldiers below disappeared, and instead there was an extremely beautiful park lawn, located in front of a bright building that symbolized civilization. There are flowers blooming, children chasing and playing, intimate couples, couples holding their children's hands and learning to walk, and all the beautiful things that people desire are like slideshows. Then, Velia, in a red dress, danced, spun, and ran on the stage, and the blood was splashed on everyone's face and body by the hem of her skirt. All the good, pure, and happy people are blood-stained and covered with blood. Then the building collapsed, and a fire destroyed the lawn, the garden. And finally, in the burning garden, there was a broken torii gate and Velia was kneeling on the ground. The red skirt is like a blooming bright flower. The flower of the end of civilization blooms. In the blink of an eye, the red-skirted Velia turned into a little girl again. She seemed exhausted and fell asleep in the torii and the fire. A reincarnation. Although Yisui had been watching the opera, he had been using his mind and brain to think of ways to wake himself up. But it felt like there were walls all around, and Yisui felt like he was BG his mind against them. The originally unbreakable wall gradually became soft, just like hard pork thawing. Then, bang! The opera also shattered like a broken camera lens. Yisui opened his eyes again and found himself sitting back in the car. Bai Lingian was hugging Yisui in fear, nervousness, and anxiety, sobbing in the corners of her eyes. Yisui was about to touch Aya's white hair instinctively. However, the heart and brain did not lose the sense of Bai Lingian's emotions for a moment. It was as if all the emotions were taken away in an instant and I turned into a puppet. Then, there were emotions again. But this kind of emotion is more of curiosity, teasing, a little shyness, and a hint of malice. I saw, Bai Lingian raised her head, with a happy expression, closed her eyes, stretched her neck, and wanted to kiss Yisui again. Tempting, enticing. But his mind and brain clearly told Yisui that this was fake. But Yisui's whole body was held and it was difficult for him to struggle free. Yisui's body is still too fragile. At this critical moment, Yisui uses a headbutt attack. Then, Bai Lingian turned into another person, Waylaya, not in red dress state. She was being embraced by Yisui in an extremely ambiguous manner. The white, bouncy, and big touch on Yisui's chest was very clear. It even felt a little itchy. Her charming eyes are full of love. But Yisui didn't feel any affection in her emotions. It is impossible for a beauty to fall from the sky. Her emotions are full of curiosity, possessiveness, embarrassment, and malice. The malice in her heart was growing, but it seemed to be suppressed with all her might. Yisui glanced to the side and found that the transparent function inside the car was gone, and he couldn't see anything outside the car window. Yisui couldn't feel any emotions. Yisui was horrified. What kind of ability is this? It restrains me too much. What exactly are you going to do? Yisui asked. I want you to join us. Vilya's forehead was a little red from being hit, and she answered with a pitiful expression. Join us. Betrayer. Chapter 46. Betrayal. Yisui asked, who did you betray? Vilya has always been in this ambiguous and awkward position. Vilya replied, what we are betraying is, the high altitude, full of selfish desires, sins, and filth, the Senate. Are you human? Yisui asked. Vilya suddenly raised her voice, I am a human. A pure-blooded human. Then you want to betray humanity? Yisui asked. I have never betrayed mankind, on the contrary, I want to save mankind. Vilya suddenly laughed loudly. Yisui has been trying to find a way to escape from this state, although it feels good. But Yisui has always disliked this feeling of being forced and felt unsafe. The heart and brain were constantly attacking the space, and at the same time they were paying attention to Vilya's emotions, but found that some depressed and bitter emotions suddenly appeared in her heart. Do you know? Humanity has left the ancestral planet 10,000 years ago. Vilya began to ask Yisui, so far. How many sins have been stained on human hands? Do you know how many people humans have killed so far? How many races have been slaughtered? How many planets have been destroyed? They are also human beings. Willia's emotions continued to rise, and her voice was even a little hoarse. They also have language, writing, emotions, memories, families, and an independent civilization with their own characteristics. Do they deserve to die? Yisui was furious and wanted to argue, but Waylaya didn't give him a chance to interrupt. Yes, we still don't admit that they are human beings. Vilya laughed self-deprecatingly, but we can deceive ourselves, but we can never deceive the entire universe. They have wisdom, they are human beings. This cannot be changed by us. This sentence seems to be refuting something. What do you think? Wei Lia calmed down and asked Yisui, the desire in her expression was to gain Yisui's approval. They are humans, so what am I? Yisui's seemingly innocuous rhetorical question also specifically used listening to all things, so that Wei Lia could clearly understand that it was it and avoid misunderstanding it as he. To be honest, Yisui doesn't hate the Holy Mother that much, he hates the Holy Mother, he just looks down on her a little. 10,000 years have passed since this happened, and ETA Euro trademark S already the interstellar era. There are actually people here shouting, the lives of aliens also matter. Vilya suppressed the blood in her heart, you are a human being too. We are all the same. Is it the same? Yisui shook his head, I don't think they need to kneel down when they see me. But I don't need to kneel to anyone. And you are the same as me. We are both beneficiaries of the existing system. We are both at the top of the interest chain and hierarchy. How can we be the same as them? Yisui retorted. Oh. Vilya smiled contemptuously, does Bai Lingyan count as a human being? Her smile seemed to be mocking Yisui's self-righteousness and mocking Yisui's self-deception. Do you think Bai Lingyan is a human being? If someone asks Bai Lingyan to kneel down to him, what should you do? Yisui was speechless for a moment. All the privileges we enjoy now are all due to our victory in military wars. Yes, we are winning now. But what if we lose? We can do it once, twice, 1,000 times, 10,000 times, 100 million times. Vilya's voice became louder and louder, and she hit Yisui's face with her head. But can we afford to lose once? It hurts to eat at Yisui. Why does it hurt even when you are attacked in your consciousness? Vilya was silent for a moment, then slowly said, we are winning now. But we can't keep winning. We will lose one day. Vilya continued to output arguments, and she did not care about the inconvenience caused by this posture. You know? We were once just one step away from failure. Because in that moment, when the Nantian Gate collapses, the Heavenly Palace falls. The 12th Great Interstellar Crusade is about to go bankrupt, and the Alliance will collapse in one day. Varia burst into tears as she described that moment. And we can only pray silently in the Palace of Heaven. Sad and crying. We can only put all our hopes in the alien soldiers who are looked down upon and oppressed by us in the Alliance system. Yes. This is the moment. We really witnessed failure. A complete failure. In the past 1,000 years, we have been afraid, and we have not had a good night's sleep. We are afraid. When we wake up, the Omnic Rebellion, and when we open our eyes, the Alien Rebellion. Or maybe a powerful race will emerge from the other side of the star sea again. My dreams are all about the magnetic storm in front of the Black Cloud Fortress, huge beams of light, shattered planets and exploding black holes. Vilya is silent, she is pessimistic. She still has many fears that she hasn't said yet. Since the 12 Great Interstellar Crusades, in this so-called peaceful 1,000 years, we have lost all our courage. Defeat is not far away, destruction is just around the corner. We began to look for a new way out. Some people wanted to be powerful, some wanted to be gentle, some wanted to sacrifice their own flesh for the eagle, and some wanted to be the dictator. Wei Lia and Yisui were still hugging each other, the hot air from her lips and nose, the saliva splashing from her excitement. The masses are still being ignored and silenced. The new generation is rebelling and living and dying drunk. People shouted for individuality, sought their own selves, and tried to forget the disputes and foreseeable tragedies between humans and the Alliance. When Yisui heard himself here, he suddenly remembered what Secretary Lu said when he lost his composure. And Vilya was still speaking like crazy, it almost became her personal speech. She was trying to get Yisui to join them, but she didn't ask Yisui at all, and just kept holding him in such an uncomfortable manner. Vilya said in a high voice, almost singing, our sins are accumulating, and our crimes will eventually be punished. On that day, all the hidden dissatisfaction, anger, and injustice will collectively erupt. In an instant, Daxia will collapse, and that will be the end of mankind. And the death knell has already tolled for mankind. This is history that Yisui has not read yet. Yisui doesn't a Euro trademark T know whether it is true or not. At that time, Yisui suddenly understood why Wei Lia became like this. She was born in the most prosperous era of mankind and was taught from childhood that mankind is invincible and great. But one day, my closest family members died, and my friends around me also died. And I personally witnessed the collapse of the undefeated legend of the Great Daxia Alliance, the despair and confusion at that moment. If mankind is really defeated, there is still the determination to destroy first and then rebuild. I don't know whether it's a pity or something to celebrate, the Daxia Alliance held on. It held on despite the difficulties. But it was not humans who held on. Any human who had experienced it could not deny their own helplessness at the time and the military miracle that happened to Otto and Nell. So much so that mankind has used such a great gift for 1,000 years to express its joy of turning defeat into victory. That failure does not mean the failure of mankind. Making good use of everything is the key to our victory. Isn't this also a victory for us humans? Yisui can only debate rationally. Vilya taunted, that's what you think of as a victory. Yisui rebuked, you are making up stories. Vilya argues, the meaning of the alliance comes from unity and equality. Yisui couldn't believe it, equality is the only right that belongs to human beings. Yisui continued to add, it's like we will never associate with beasts. Vilya said disdainfully, the death knell will eventually toll for mankind. Yisui was dissatisfied, you lack the proper imagination and hope for human beings. Vilya angrily rebuked, should I be so arrogant and self-righteous? Yisui continued to refute, we have a huge alliance and an invincible fleet. Vilya's eyes were filled with disgust. She interrupted and said, an alliance that committed crimes and a fleet that massacred innocent women and children. Yisui said almost at the same time, without these, you can stand in front of us and speak calmly. Continue to chase, without humans, what are you? Vilya refused to give in, they stand up, but they will never fall for humanity. Unless. Vilya continued. But this time Yisui interrupted her, we are already standing on them. If they stand up, we will definitely fall from the height. We will definitely fall down, and they will even step on us twice. In the universe, they are singing the voice of freedom. Vilya is becoming more and more white-left. That's just your stupid tinnitus. Yisui refuted disdainfully. The myth of invincibility will eventually be shattered. When the sins are counted, humans cannot escape reincarnation. Vilya was still arguing. The disparity in power can be crushed with one shot. Yisui pressed Vilya with his head to create visual pressure. War is nothing but the selfish desires of the Senate. Vilya's stubborn eyes pushed back, it will only bring bloodshed. Material resources are protecting human peace. Yisui refuted and elaborated on his own point of view. A euro, what the universe really needs is order, not justice. The bell never tolls for men. Without humans and order, will the interstellar world be better? Chapter 47. They are just afraid of humans. They are terrified of humans. The order is just something we forcefully agreed upon. Don't you understand that if you rely too much on force and power, you will be frightened, rejected, and isolated by the weaker people, and thus lose the support of the power? Wei Lia is educating earnestly. Yisui recalled that when he was a cyber troll on Earth, he discussed the relationship between civil governance and military governance. So Yisui replied, when you, as a strong person, are frightened by the weak and isolated, you should think about whether your military strength is not high enough. As the overlord of the stars, we are hated and hostile by those weak alien races, and face the risk of potential retaliation. Shouldn't we consider that our military power may still be insufficient? So that these ants think we can't exterminate them all. What does it matter if there are many inferior races in the universe? If we don't have the ability to exterminate them all, we are still uneasy about our position as the overlord of the galaxy. If we are really worried, we can start reducing the alien population right now, whether it's spreading viruses, physical sterilization, provoking war, orderly slaughter, or even a star destroyer cannon. It's all effective. At least let them remember. I'm not destroying you now because I'm too lazy to do so, and the benefit of destroying you is not enough to cover the cost of that star destroyer cannon. Yisui and Wei Lia were not chatting in the same channel at all. Except for the last sentence. Vilya Euro trademark's logic is that humans cannot always win, once humans lose. With the current tiny population of 1.6 billion, China absolutely cannot withstand retaliation. Even though humans have gone a long way toward becoming elite soldiers, there are still many ordinary people. People like Vilya and Ariel possess some superpowers and may be able to survive. So what should the majority of Euro people do? So compared to Ariel, he is a conciliator and a compromiser. Vilya, who calls herself a traitor, is a complete capitulator. The Daxia Alliance has not collapsed yet. And, for Yisui. Yisui never felt the sense of crisis that the Great Xia Alliance would collapse overnight. At most, he thinks about the problem from the perspective of alleviating internal conflicts. There is only a difference between inefficient and efficient. I feel that Vilya's ideas are absurd, stupid, and abstract. It can be compared to the 1991 big bear who killed himself. Although the house was large, it was covered in various types of moss, silt, and insect damage. Even if it starts to leak and blow, there is absolutely no need to dig the foundation. Apart from anything else, the Daxia Alliance rules the galaxy, and the number of intelligent mechanical units is 10 times that of organic creatures. Humanity is on the verge of extinction. If we release the restrictions on intelligent machines, the entire universe will explode. What will you do? What Yisui said at the end is of course a matter of opinion. The so-called order and justice, in the vast universe, the languages a euro are the same, the writing is different, and the physiology of each race is so different that they can serve as each other's recipes. Without the Daxia Alliance's forced suppression, there will be no order at all. The Great Xia Alliance would exterminate entire clans at will, and the second and third borders, which were cultivated areas that had been governed for more than 1,000 years, were still full of interstellar pirates. I dare not imagine what the scene will be like in the fourth frontier, a place that has only been slowly developed for nearly 1,000 years, apart from the inner universe and the outer universe. Is this the justice you want? In fact, the above view is somewhat one-sided. The spread of battleships and cannons in the universe has allowed some races that have not yet established civilized cognition to take a big step into the civilized universe. The result is that cannibals carry guns and roast people for food. Humans themselves also know that the four-level citizen system of the Daxia Alliance is too immoral, and have already excluded themselves from it for fear of incurring hatred. In addition, this system actually restricted the exercise of human rights at that time. Humans just refused to rule the Great Xia Alliance together with those alien races, so they gave up the Great Xia Alliance Representative Conference and the Great Xia Alliance Interstellar Joint Conference. Also established the Senate. Compare population. During the peak of humanity's existence during the 4th and 5th expeditions, there were only a few 100 billion people. That was 7 or 8,000 years ago, and they couldn't be better than those breeding pigs. It is because there are so many alien races in the interstellar space. The number is suffocating and despairing. Theta Euro trademark SY humans are so crazy that they mass-produce omnics and create artificial and derivative humans. Yisui and Wei Lai remained in that position until Yisui once again used his mind and heart to break this layer of space. Still the iconic special effect of broken mirror. Then, the next moment, Yisui appeared on the original stage again, and Wei Lai was already on the high platform, looking at Yisui with a glance. Why are you so extreme? Willia said angrily. Weren't you born more than 9,700 years ago? Aren't humans very friendly to outsiders at that time? Villia asked in confusion. Yisui didn't know how to answer her question. I can only be silent alone. However, Yisui continued to vow with all his heart and soul to break this space. Yisui used his mind and brain too much and it would consume his energy. Yisui didn't believe that Wei Lai's creation of one serial dream space after another had no impact at all. I can't see through you at all. If it were someone else, they would have been lost in my dream, and they would have been lost long ago. As long as I wave my hand gently, they will do whatever they want. Wei Lai expressed her curiosity about Yisui's ability. What is your ability and why can you resist my dream of sinking? Yisui was very afraid of her ability, and there was nothing suitable for manipulation in her emotions. She is already so crazy, and Yisui is really afraid of making her even more crazy. But, at this moment, Villia sighed helplessly. I really don't want to hurt my fellow man. But you are too extreme. I really want to clean you up in advance for mankind. Alas. What a pity. I have finally embarked on the path I hate. Then, Villia jumped up and transformed into an angel, with 6 wings. Dazzling light and dark green shadows converged on her body, evil intentions and holiness coexisted. Her clothes are made of silk and white cloth, like a vision of a god or an angel descending into the world. A white light spear condensed in Varia's hand, and the shadow wrapped around the light spear little by little along her hand. But Yisui's heart and mind felt a powerful spirit gathering in front of him. The goodwill to save people and the malice to kill were so strong at this moment that they had become substantial, even tingling Yisui's nerves. Yisui felt a murderous intention condensed, and the breath of death emerged. Yisui is not willing to die here. He wants to live. Yisui imitated Wei Lai and gathered his mental power around him, trying to protect himself. But Yisui's mental power was too scattered, like clouds, unable to gather together. So Yisui could only open up his mind and brain to the greatest extent regardless of the cost. In an instant of powerful consumption, Yisui's consciousness even collapsed. And Yisui's eyes shine with golden light, which is breathtaking. And this golden light confronts Villia, who is transformed into an angel in the sky. Seeing this scene on Villia's holy face, she couldn't bear to close her eyes, with tears falling faintly. Yisui, on the other hand, had a fierce look on his face and screamed in dissatisfaction and unwillingness. Bring it on. See if the angel can kill the god. Villia projects a spear. The golden light fills the air and forms a shield. The result is that the golden light is of no use at all. The disintegrated golden light cannot stop the spear that has condensed to a substantial level even in the slightest. The spear passed through the golden light without any doubt. Then a dazzling white light is released instantly. Nothing can be seen clearly in the white light. Chapter 48. The white light dissipates, in the center of the white light. The light dissipated at the place where Yisui had concentrated his mental strength to block it. There was silence in the space, no music, no singing or dancing. Above the stage, lights were hanging high, and around the edges, red curtains were fluttering. Then let the noisy wind stop. Just now, Villia stabbed Yisui with a spear of condensed and materialized mental power, and easily broke Yisui's defense. I saw a flash of white light. When Yisui reluctantly opened his eyes, he found himself safe and sound, unharmed, standing steadily in the same place. Yisui looked at his white and tender palms in disbelief, and then looked around his body, but there was still no abnormality. Okay. My head hurts a bit. This must be the after effect of forcibly exerting the maximum power of the mind and brain. At this moment, Yisui finally remembered the big boss 6-winged angel form Villia. And I saw that Villia had turned back to her original normal form. Compared to Yisui who was unharmed, it was Wei Lai who had blood in her eyes and knelt on the ground in pain. She rested her forehead on the ground, her arms on the ground, her fists clenched, her hands trembling, her nails digging into the muscles of her palms. She was sweating all over, but she was crying so hard that she couldn't tell whether the water stains under her body were sweat or tears. At this moment, the space is collapsing bit by bit. When Chang Mao was about to pierce Yisui, Wei Lai forcibly stopped the attack and took all the backlash. Wei Lai was still crying, she was so sad, it seemed that the emotions were also being transmitted in the space. Why? Wei Lai raised her head and questioned Yisui. Why won't you do what I say? Villia screamed, only in this way can we all survive in the future. Are we so extreme? Why are you so self-righteous? Why can't you just live well? Why won't you listen to me? Wei Lai eliminates war, hatred, and hierarchy, and pursues equality and justice. For Villia, all she wanted was to protect humanity. Even if the road is a little tortuous, even if she might have taken the wrong path. But if she points her spear at her fellow human beings whom she has always wanted to protect and save. So you're still protecting humans? Wei Lai has been asking this question, but there is no answer. Or she will never be able to give herself an answer. After all, she is still just the child who has not come out of that day and has not grown up. I'm sorry. A voice as faint as a mosquito's buzz. I'm sorry for hurting you. Vilya stood up, blood and tears still flowing, she was in a very bad condition. The space fragmentation was getting bigger and bigger, and Yisui seemed to feel the anxiety of the people outside. In addition, Yisui felt that his mind and brain were madly absorbing the spiritual energy that was escaping from the space. Goodbye. Weili waved to Yisui. She was in a bad state now and could no longer maintain her sinking dream. Besides, if I don't run away, some scary person will come and catch me back. Time is long, see you when you come, I will do everything to prove that I am right. At this moment, the space finally broke apart, and Yisui found that the entire stage floor was shattered like a mirror being hit. Yisui has a lot of questions in his mind that he wants to talk about. Baffling. What is this? No, if you come to visit me normally, will I see you? If you sit down face to face and discuss in a friendly manner, would I not chat with you? And Vilya actually chose such a tortuous way, such a confusing method. Then Vilya shouted for war and killing. But when the critical moment comes, you don't fight again. So, was that to scare Yisui? Then he apologized, and said he would prove himself right in the future. This is too embarrassing. Yisui, who thought he was normal, couldn't understand the train of thought of such a crazy person. However, what is certain is that Wilaya has indeed been suppressing her malice towards her compatriots and has not actually done anything to harm Yisui. Regarding this situation, Yisui decided to say a few good words to her when he reported her back. I feel that based on the love that the Daxia Alliance has for humans, the death penalty should not be imposed, but more likely house arrest. Just when Yisui was feeling lucky to have escaped a disaster, he started to have wild thoughts. After using all their strength, the outside world finally shattered the dream of decadence that was no longer maintained by Weilaya. Yisui also felt that the sense of touch on his body was becoming more and more obvious, and the emotions outside were becoming more and more obvious. Yisui knew he was going out. Bang! The dream is broken and everything returns to reality. Yisui's consciousness also awakened in reality. He was no longer on the road he was on, but had moved to a suspended platform inside a transparent sphere. Yisui was still sitting in the car, and Bai Ling-Ian was next to him. Bai Ling-Ian felt very tired, her eyes were bloodshot. It feels like I haven't had a good night's sleep for several days and nights. Bai Ling-Ian's white hair is a little burnt. She stared blankly at Yisui who had just woken up. Bai Ling-Ian has 1,000 words in her heart that she wants to say, and she can say them and needs to say them. No matter how I express my attachment, my fear, my love. Or should I take credit for not giving up? I would rather endure the pain of the shock of consciousness space. I am also willing to stay by your side, and as Yisui instructed, hold you tightly and never let go. Bai Ling-Ian has countless choices. She can say countless words. She can gain countless favors. She can use this opportunity to gain countless benefits. Even the status can be confirmed, just this time. If Bai Ling-Ian is a smart woman, she should do this. A euro if you don't euro trademark T express your true feelings when you are in trouble, how can you gain Yisui euro trademark S gratitude and love? Bai Ling-Ian knows such a simple truth. Bai Ling-Ian is a very smart, self-aware, and calculating woman. But yet. At this moment, she is just a silly girl who falls in love. She would just throw herself into Yisui's arms and cry loudly. She would only hold Yisui's waist tightly, unwilling to leave. Bai Ling-Ian's tears soaked Yisui's clothes, and her delicate face was covered with tears. Bai Ling-Ian's little head rubbed against Yisui's chest desperately. She put her ear close to listen to Yisui's strong heartbeat. Only this sound could make Bai Ling-Ian feel at ease. Only this voice means that the man I'm hugging is in my arms. The beauty is in my arms, the beauty favors me, I am extremely moved, deeply touched, it is really a blessing in 3 lifetimes. Yisui also hugged Bai Ling-Ian tightly, smelling the fresh scent of her hair, which made him feel at ease. One hand gently held up her delicate face, her expression of joy and excitement still had a few traces of anxiety and worry. Bai Ling-Ian's eyes were filled with tears and full of affection. All she could see was Yisui's figure. She is waiting for her something. No one dared to come up and disturb. What is Yisui brewing? All romantic stories should not end at this moment. Chapter 49. Every romantic story should have a happy ending. Bai Ling-Ian watched Yisui getting closer and closer. She could already hear the boy's breathing, her face flushed and she closed her tearful eyes. Then kiss. A kiss lasts for 1,000 years, Bai Ling-Ian's eyes were filled with tears of emotion. The green lips and teeth intersect, and the tip of the tongue touches the white teeth lightly. Winding, exchanging, drawing, everything is done in one go, and the love is naturally strong when it is deep. The lotus emerges from the water shyly, and the jade lotus root is still wrapped around the green dragon tooth. Then the suspended transparent sphere was slowly moving to the deck of the science room. Only Secretary Lu was waiting with a smile. How could others dare to take a look? The sphere had already been changed to opaque. People outside cannot see what is going on inside. Visual surveillance has also been interrupted, but those researchers have very sharp eyes. How dare they watch such private matters? If it weren't for monitoring Yisui's situation, they wouldn't even keep the thermal imaging surveillance. In fact, after walking for a while, Yisui suddenly fell into a coma. Xiaolu, the administrative minister, immediately declared martial law throughout the city. Although the executive power of the alliance has expanded to surpass that of institutions at the same level, it should actually be the Minister of Public Security who declares martial law. When the Minister of Public Security heard about the accident, he fainted on the spot. Therefore, the administrative minister who was personally carrying out the construction at the front line had to rush back to clean up the mess. Secretary Lu was in a meeting at the time, and when he heard the news, he hurried over. It was immediately analyzed that it was Walia's doing. So he immediately ordered people to look for Walia. At that time, Walia relied on her rank and authority to find a random place to hide in Xiaolu. It's not easy. Secretary Lu doesn't have any special abilities and can only report to his superiors. Secretary Lu also understands Walia and knows Walia's creed and principles. Nothing too serious has happened, but Yi Sui has been in a coma, which is quite worrying. It was not until Yi Sui used the ability to listen to everything that Bai Ling Ian heard the call and everyone felt relieved. Then find the direction and use the consciousness space research machine to give Yi Sui a space shock to try to break Wei Lia's dream of sinking. Then all the officers and soldiers of Yinghuo and all the personnel of Sheila 1/4 were called up to look for Walia. In a short time, the space singer Villia went from being an interstellar star to a felony fugitive. Then, immediately afterwards, Villia went from being a felony fugitive to a witness summoned in the case. It's easy to tell that it was the Senate behind the scenes that came out to clean up the mess, and then Yi Sui woke up. Yi Sui will suffer from the shock of consciousness space, and Bai Ling Ian, who is mentally exhausted and limp all over, is carried down from the car. Bai Ling Ian blushed and buried her head in Yi Sui's arms. Bai Ling Ian's genes had long been improved, her bones were very dense and strong, almost like Superman. At that time, Bai Ling Ian's mother's genes were designed for entertainment. In order to avoid the embarrassing situation that people who have not been genetically enhanced cannot hold them, they can freely adjust their own weight. Secretary Lu stood on the shore, leaning against the railing, smiling but saying nothing. It was done by a human named Villia, who calls herself a traitor. Yi Sui spoke directly when he saw Secretary Lu. Did she even perform opera for you and invite you to join them? Yi Sui nodded. Is she a repeat offender? Has this happened to you too? Yi Sui asked. Secretary Lu shook his head. I don't know much about it, but she has already written an apology letter and submitted it to the Human Joint Law Enforcement Special Service. What will she do in the end? Yi Sui wondered. Secretary Lu waved his hands. What else can we do? Criticize and educate her. She didn't really hurt you, and she didn't violate the laws of the Human United Legislative Committee. Also, you want us to explain the struggle between you and the consciousness space? Secretary Lu asked back. Yi Sui was a little confused, as it seemed like everyone had those special abilities. Most of them are still silent people. After all, some power requires a price. Secretary Lu said mysteriously. Secretary Lu then patted Yi Sui on the shoulder and said, don't worry about anything else. Take a rest first. I'll tell you what was discussed in the meeting later. No, Wei Lia attacked me. Yi Sui was very confused. Yi Sui felt that although Walia did not hurt him, she also did not show any intention of hurting him. If the Senate said that a severe punishment should be imposed on a serious crime, Yi Sui might suggest a lighter sentence. But can the Senate always be tolerant? Is there really no punishment at all? The same thing happened to AI girl Yi Meng last time. Now Wei Lia has done something wrong again, but she has not been punished at all. Secretary Lu could see Yi Sui's dissatisfaction and sighed helplessly. The relationship between humans now is not a society, not a political system. Secretary Lu looked deeply at Yi Sui. Humans are the only family in your lonely universe that can rely on each other. If family members fight, make mistakes, or disagree with each other, should they all be dealt with according to the law? Human beings are more like a family. After everything was done, Yi Sui went out feeling refreshed. The acting captain of the Yinghuo battleship specially found a floating stepping platform. The so-called suspended stepping platform is actually similar to a disc. With the help of the overall suspension system of the Mars ship, the stepping platform can maintain a very stable and fast state. Its greatest use is not for transportation, but for transporting precision instruments within the ship. Then it was slightly modified, sacrificing the load capacity and a little stability, but improving the speed and controllability, and also thoughtfully equipped with a seat. Secretary Lu was summoned by Yi Sui and he wanted to meet Yi Sui. Yi Sui refused because his room was not suitable. So the two of them agreed to go together to the meeting room that was converted from the command center. Although Yi Sui felt that the AI girl Yi Meng might not be abstract enough to eavesdrop. So Yi Sui took out all the AI-related things in the room. This is similar to the rule that no AI robots are allowed in the core areas of the Senate. As a result, all kinds of miscellaneous work in the Senate needed to be done by manpower, so the Pantheon had a large number of derivatives and artificial humans for a long time. Yi Sui puts on a watch that can eject a floating virtual panel. Most of the AI functions can be used through manual or voice operation. What's the point of having so many subordinates for the remaining functions that cannot be realized? Then Yi Sui directly obtained the internal layout map of the Yinghuo ship through the authorized intranet and input it into the floating stepping platform. We turned on the automatic navigation and arrived at the destination very quickly. Secretary Lu had been waiting for a long time. He stepped forward and shook hands with Yi Sui. Mr. Yi Sui, please tell me about the Senate's meeting about you first. Yi Sui nodded and sat on either side with Secretary Lu. Mr. Yi Sui, you are now becoming famous in the Senate. Secretary Lu teased. Secretary Lu did not continue to keep the secret, but today, 2 meetings were held about you, one for discussion and one for resolution. Every meeting was packed. In just that one meeting, the number of valid votes reached over 160 million. It can be seen that everyone is very concerned about you and very curious about you. The discussion meeting is about your refusal to return to the Senate to request a delay in the return date for the Ancestor Worship and Postgraduate Entrance Examination Alliance. It is also about whether your behavior violates the rules and undermines the prestige of the Senate. The decision will be based on the discussion meeting. It will decide whether to use coercive means to bring you back, or make other arrangements for you. Also, as your secretary, I attended the meeting on your behalf and helped you defend yourself. No need to thank me. Yisui has always been confused about the operation of the Senate's political system. On the one hand, I feel that this absolute democratic system of one person, one vote and the principle of collective democracy formed by the Senate are inherently contradictory. Absolute democracy is also called extreme democracy. One person, one vote, the cost is huge. Even if the cost can be ignored in the interstellar era, what about time and efficiency? With 1.6 billion people, one sentence at a time, we can't Euro trademark T even finish a meeting in a year. For the sake of efficiency, there will inevitably be silent masses. You can think of the Euro-easement masses Euro as self-sacrifice, or you can think of them as forced sacrifice. But remember, silence does not mean acceptance, it just means unwillingness to object. People have such different opinions that it is difficult for them to convince each other. At the last moment, the result is bound to be endless quarrels and endless compromises. But both sides thought they had reached a point where they could not compromise at all, so they could only fight a simple and rough duel. The final price of fighting for lives is that you will definitely offend the other group without any room for error. This will only intensify the differences and conflicts between the two factions. Do you want to know how I argued for you among the scholars? Secretary Lu looked like he wanted to take credit for it. Yisui shook his head, just tell me the result. Secretary Lu also shook his head and complained, how boring. Yisui's mouth twitched, and he complained in his heart, who wants to talk to you about this? You look so mean and fierce, and you still have the nerve to complain to me about this? If you were a pretty girl, I would be happy to continue chatting with you. Secretary Lu cleared his throat and said, at the first meeting, the mainstream opinion was that you really don't respect the Senate enough, but they don't want to criticize you too much. Let me, on behalf of the Senate, give you a brief lecture. Yisui suddenly understood why the Senate did not punish the A Euro girls Yimeng and Wei Lia, just as they thought that I might have made some mistakes, but were unwilling to punish me. Secretary Lu then said, in the second resolution meeting, we will continue the spirit of the Council of Consultation, so we will directly discuss how the Senate should arrange you. Since you want to go to the Ancestral Star to worship your ancestors, the Senate has decided to appoint Yisui as the special envoy for the Qingming Ancestral Worship Ceremony. Yisui was confused. What kind of official position is this? Chapter 50. Yisui sat in front of the command hall of the Mars ship, staring at the huge space jump gate in front of him, which was displayed on the light screen. His heart was filled with longing for his ancestral planet, but also with a hint of nervousness. After all, that is where I grew up, even if time changes, it is just a dream that lasts for 10,000 years. This time I went to Zuxing, I was also looking for my past life. Moreover, the Senate has also arranged a special envoy for the ancestral worship ceremony on Zuxing. What kind of position is this? What was the name of the acting captain of the Yinghuo? Yisui had already forgotten his name. He came up to report, everything is ready, and we are about to pass through the space jump gate. Yisui nodded. Following the captain's order, the Mars ship slowly sailed towards the space jump gate. The surrounding light began to distort and deform, but the hull remained motionless, as if it was not affected at all by the shock caused by the space jump. Yisui leaned back in his seat, his eyes fixed on the gate he was about to pass through. When the warship pierced into the brilliant energy field, a strong light flashed, and the entire ship seemed to have entered a colorful light tunnel. After a few minutes, the vision gradually became clear. A blue planet appeared in the field of vision. It was not the ancestral planet, but Neptune. Rather than calling it a planet, it should be called the Forbidden Army Poseidon military base. Because Poseidon has been transformed and no longer looks like a planet. At present, Poseidon can still continue to emit sunlight, which is entirely because the ancestral planet wants to see the existence of Neptune. Because humans still want to see the same starry sky on Earth. In addition, the Daxia Alliance would not be so foolish as to build a large space transfer station next to the ancestral star. There really is no buffer space at all. Then the Mars ship quickly replenished its energy and started its superluminal acceleration engine. The distance from Poseidon to the Earth is only 0.0003 light-years, which is much closer than the distance from M to the Sheila 1/4 transfer station. However, in order to maintain the space-time stability and navigation order of the solar system, it is generally forbidden to drive too fast under special circumstances. However, Yisui's authority is above this regulation, but Yisui is not in a hurry. There is still some time before the Qingming festival, so Yisui is not in a hurry. More importantly, Yisui always had a bad feeling. The solar system is important to the current Daxia Alliance. The place is so small that even if you put 3 military bases in it, it would be completely overcrowded. The voyages are already regularly planned and maintained, and small meteorites and other comets and dwarf planets will not interfere with the route operations. The Yinghuo did not take the civilian route, but instead ran at full speed and took the military's emergency route. Yisui returned to the room to continue reading history, while Bai Lingyan was also reading various human-related cultures and knowledge. These contents were originally forbidden to be taught to other races, but Bai Lingyan is a derivative person on the one hand, and Yisui's woman on the other. She belongs to a circle of pan-humans, and Yisui has the authority to decide whether she is educated. Yisui has read about the history of the Third World War and how the surviving humans after the Third World War formed a human united government. And how to make up your mind and rush into the interstellar age. Soon, Yisui and his team passed by the Yinghuo military base. It is not difficult to find an extremely huge spectacle of red starry sky. This kind of scene, it can only be the Imperial Guard's Yinghuo military base. Mars communicated with the base and rushed to the ancestral planet. The ancestral star is only this far away from Mars, so since we are sending a Buddha, we might as well send it to the west. Around the Moon Palace, a permanent military fortress in the lunar universe, a huge spaceport for both military and civilian use was built, the Yetu spaceport. Mars still did not enter Yetu port, and still dispatched a second-level battleship as a ferry to bring Yisui and his party to Yetu port. The same process, the same salute. When Yisui saw the scene, he felt a sense of pride and was even more confused about whether the Great Xia Alliance was full of contradictions that he couldn't see. The main port of Yetu port has already been cleared, and the administrative minister of Yetu port has been waiting for it. For Yetu port, clearance is sparse and normal, and the main port has never opened its doors normally. In addition to the main port, Yetu port has specially built 3 additional secondary ports. The clearing of the main port is not just for pure-blood humans. Most pure-blood humans will not be as powerful as Yisui. The top alliance dignitaries and senior officials can make Yetu port clear the port. It usually takes half an hour to clear it. There are powerful people all over the ancestral star. It's really too much, and it will make a few pure-blood humans dislike you and come out to punish you. You know what it means to be heaven and earth. Because Wei Lai A Euro trademark S confrontation with Yisui and Xia will quickly spread throughout the stars. Although it can be said that there are very few people who support Varia in the human race, after all, Varia is a legendary figure who has been active for thousands of years. The popularity is not bad. In addition, Varia calls herself a traitor, but she is actually classified into the rebel faction according to the classification. The category of the abandoned and rebellious millennium generation that pursues existentialism, naturalism, and rebellious spirit. The ancestral star is the base camp of the rebel faction, so there are many humans in the ancestral star. I am very interested in Yisui, but I have no idea about Yisui at all. Secretary Liu came to visit Yisui and compiled information about the ancestor worship ceremony and previous cases for him in advance. But Yisui serves as the special envoy of the ancestor worship ceremony. The process of ancestor worship on the ancestral star has always been left on the ancestral star. The Historical and Cultural Inheritance Committee of the Executive Committee of the United Humankind Congress and the Organizing Committee for the Ancestor Worship Activities of the Senate are responsible. The former is already a short department, while the latter has no specific administrative power. However, the ancestor worshippers are so sensitive, and whether they are big or small, they cannot be fulfilled by personal authority alone. As a result, there was a small problem of chaotic command regarding ancestor worship. Not to mention anything else, there are only 3 temples and 6 mountains. How do you pray and in what order? The 3 temples are Nuwa Temple, Yanhuang Temple, and Athens Temple. The 6 mountains are Mount Tai, Chenbei Mountain, Kunlun Mountain, Himalayas, Alps, and Rocky Mountains. This is the main must-see item, but there are many other items. Because the ancestor worship ceremony is getting worse and worse, as a result, fewer and fewer people come back from a grand gathering of mankind thousands of years ago. The Senate predicts that only a small 100,000 humans will return to the ancestral star to participate in the ancestor worship ceremony. Of course, this is also influenced by Ariel's coming-of-age ceremony and the revenge war launched by the Senate. However, this number is too small. Yisui rubbed his eyes. He had been looking at the electronic screen for too long, and his eyes were a little sore. So it was replaced with a light screen. No wonder the light screen can eliminate the electronic screen, there is a big gap in functionality. Suddenly, Yisui remembered. By the way, the A Euro girl hasn't appeared for a long time since she was attacked by Villia last time. The A Euro girl Yimeng naturally does not serve Yisui specifically. She is responsible for the central service of the entire Daxia Alliance. Just let it go for 2 days as soon as Yisui wakes up. If he continues to follow him, it will affect the normal operation of the computing power in other places. The second-level battleship docked on the deck of Yeto port, and the boarding bridge was lowered. Yisui, Secretary Liu, and Bai Ling Ian, as well as hundreds of elite soldiers sent by the Yinghuo army to protect Yisui, disembarked one after another. General Wu Jiaosan, the military commander and commander-in-chief of the Moon Palace Fortress, did not attend, but his secretary Mao Dandan welcomed him on behalf of him. In addition, there are a large number of Moon Palace Fortress officers, Yeto port officials and some people who took the space elevator from the ancestral planet. Most of them represent some pure-blooded humans, and these people together represent all the political power of the ancestral planet the Moon. Mao Dandan looked like just a little girl, standing here timidly. She stretched out her hand. Hello, Mr. Yisui, my name is Mao Dandan. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you are notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.